Hello and welcome to episode 3 of 147 players on a cursed diplomacy map. We are now down to just 78 in 1909. Not 1909, 1906 even. So it is... We've lost a lot of players. Almost half of the players who started this game are now gone. But myself and Ezio are still alive. I'm here in Wiener Neustadt. I'm playing as Feldkirch. I've migrated one center across. And Ezio is here in Constantinople doing considerably better than me, right, Ezio?
Yeah.
Yeah. Respectively, Ezio is in the Greater Turkish Friendship Organization, which is basically all of the Turkish powers at this point. I don't think there's a single power left inside the Turkish perimeter who is not in GTFO.
Yes, we have successfully eliminated everyone.
Yeah.
The only one, Parma, or whatever, yeah,
Yes.
Forest, that dot is not in GTFO.
Yes, that is a part of Fire, who are the Italian players, who now own a fair bit more than Italy. I think they're expanding into other theatres. But yeah, so, Ezio is in GTFO. I am currently in Spiral. My initial alliance OFS dissolved when it was stabbed by Kragujevac. I have miraculously survived the stab and fought back and joined the nearest neighbouring alliance to me, which was in the other Austria here. And Spiral now controls pretty much all of this area. The one person who I'm circling here who is not in Spiral is Kragujevac, who is in Timisoara here. And this player in Crescent is actually Chicken, who is in Ezio's alliance. And is currently trying to... Well, they were currently attacking Crescent, who is in Spiral. That's this pink player here. That about brings it up to speed. Ezio, is there anything you want to say before we go and have a look at the moves?
Not too much before moves this phase. I think we can see the moves and get a sense of what's going on.
Yeah, I would say the same for my region. So I guess I'll start off with what's going on in my area here. From what I recall, we at this point were very worried about GTFO invasion, right? Spiral in general is quite worried about that because GTFO are outright attacking Australia at this point. That's the Austria who's slightly north of us, and they are trying to convince us to allow them to land in this kind of area and get armies into Austria. And we hear that, we're like, no way! We're already seeing them beating Crescent up in this from this side. If you land armies in this area as well, we may be in some trouble, right? They are probably going to come after us as soon as they're done with Australia here. So we start maneuvering to get into position to kill those units, right, and get rid of them. You can see Dornbirn is advancing into full. Dornbirn and St. Polten are swapping Steyr and Feldkirch, and I'm pushing St. Polten forward into Symphony so that they can bounce this Finn army out. We also do have to deal with this Timisoara army still. And as you can see, Crescent is trying to support me into there, but of course it's getting cut by Chicken, who is trying to attack Crescent. So for now, I'm not going for it. I might go for it next turn if St. Polten is free to issue me the support. Yeah, that's about it as far as Spiral goes. At least the bit of Spiral that's relevant to me. Being on one center means I can get through my own story quite fast here.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, we need to go take a look at what's going on with Ezio.
Yeah, so let's start talking about Istanbul. So Istanbul is actually in Esk.
Yeah,
I don't know how to
this
pronounce that one,
player.
but it's there. And then their fleet is in Karmalund. Now, y'all may remember that I had negotiated a deal with Varna that GTFO was allowed to put one fleet in Karmalund. And that fleet was supposed to be going out somewhere, right? That fleet was going to be important, and I think that fleet was clearly supposed to go to Serpent's Bay here. Just like incredibly clearly, because in Serpent's Bay it does stuff, right? We're talking about eating those two crescent dots, and it's really useful for that because it just, hey, it's an extra support that can help with stuff. It can maybe convoy into Fang, because as Meme is pointing out, everyone in this Spiral Alliance is really focused on this Finn convoy.
Yep.
But if we put a fleet in Serpent's Bay, then we can potentially convoy into Dirge or Fang or Lim or just support an attack into Bugas. Like that fleet in Serpent's Bay would be huge. But Istanbul is a one-centered power who subbed in and made a whole bunch of noise about wanting to get a fleet and wanting to be put in position to be useful. And then I said, okay, sure, I'll let you be the one to put your fleet into Carmelond. And then Istanbul decided to pull their fleet back into Ghost Basin too.
Yep. Which doesn't seem like anywhere close to what was required or wanted here.
Yeah, it just seems absolutely useless.
uh,
Like, that fleet is now back. It's not going to help us get any dots. It's just going to be annoying. And he only did it because he didn't trust me.
mhm.
And it's like, okay, great. You can not trust me, but you should have a sense of timing, guy. Because if you can find a way to get yourself a dot, you can build and defend yourself, and then you can have two units. But if you keep yourself on one unit, not trusting me forever, then it's not going to matter if you don't trust me, because you're going to die anyways. Eventually.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, I'd be pretty terrified if I was moving my fleet all the way up here and leaving my dot open next to you, to be honest.
why
This
are you
is...
playing Ghost Basin?
Well, yes, but you can move into both Ghost Basin things at the same time here, right? Because Constantinople
Yeah.
is next to either Ghost Basin, so is Sanlieva.
Yeah.
So you could move in twice and then support yourself into their dot, no matter if there's someone else there to defend it. Yeah, I'd be pretty scared. I can understand why he did this, but it seems like something that you could then use to say, oh, he's a traitor, let's get rid of him, right?
Yeah.
Was that what happened?
No.
No? Oh,
But I
because
put him on
you...
my shit list.
Okay. I guess you're not calling for his death because you wouldn't be the one getting the center, right?
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay. Yeah, so I assume this bounce here was arranged as well, right?
Yeah, in fact, I was supposed to also bounce in Carmelond 1,
Mm-hmm.
but I didn't do that. And I had some justification for not. I forget why. It was pretty minor. But basically I was happy for Spiral to be out of South Spiral for a second. Um but I don't worry, I wouldn't worry about it.
Yeah.
Varna was confused about this for a bit. I'm like, yeah, don't worry about it.
Alright. Well, if they're looking for answers in this commentary, I suppose they're not going to get it.
Yeah, I don't have any great answers. It was a minor thing where it was a bounce, but I felt very safe about about Somnifora, right? I'm not going to lose anything.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. There was no risk, and then it's just like, would I rather Varna have their fleet in Carmelon or South Spiral this phase? And I think the answer was actually I'd rather have them have it in Carmelon instead of South Spiral. But I don't know. It didn't matter that much.
Right.
Um, but yes, this was the stuff that was dealing with the north of GTFO and Spiral. Um, then we've got me doing a little bit more positioning in the south. Since I was able to get Crossroads back into Crossroads, my deal was that I will get the center of Gaz.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm planning to do that. Um, I am in Fireback right now because I'm going to take Gaz from Fireback. It doesn't really matter which way I take it from. Like, if I take it from,
Storm Basin
maybe I
one.
was supposed to take it from Storm Basin. Yeah, but like, I don't know. I moved into Fireback. I'm planning on taking Gaz, and it's fine. And I'm really happy that I'm able to get Mirage to move into Stormwall instead of just supporting themselves. The tensions between GTFO and Fire have been increasing pretty steadily throughout.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that it's important that GTFO have units in like Stormwall and Journey and the rest. I also think it's kind of important for GTFO to have an army in Essence to help with Carmelond and with Syria. But
But you'd have to be the
we
one
don't have that
building
yet.
that army, or you'd be convoying someone over, I guess.
Oh, I don't. I'm not going to put an army in Essence ever. That's certainly not going to be me.
Hmm.
Because yeah, it's maybe a useful position for an army to be, but I don't. I'm not going to get a dot from having an army there, right?
So it's another one of those, someone needs to make the sacrifice for the Alliance, it's not going to be me things, right?
Yeah. I mean, like other people care a lot more about the alliance being strong than I do.
Hmm.
But also nobody really cares if fire puts a unit in essence because it really only messes with me.
Yeah.
Um,
So,
but through solid negotiations, right? Like I think Fire recognizes and feels that if they move into Essence, it would just be an open declaration of war against GTFO, and that's going to make their lives annoying everywhere.
mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, it's worth noting that you have a lot more borders with GCO with Fire than it looks like, looking at the map as it is, because the map wraps around in both directions, right? So GTFO can quite quickly get to Corner Ocean here and through Ocean of the Moons. GTFO is also surprisingly close to Fire's south side, via the like centers that you have up here, because I think Devil's Petersburg is part of GTFO at the moment, the player who is there, right?
Indeed. Yeah.
So yeah, that could cause them some serious issues. So they are clearly not going for it, at least not at the moment.
Yeah. So this is a good phase for GTFO mobilization. There's another big note. We get the army in Grouse convoyed out to Hook, and then the army in Bursa convoyed out. And so at this point, we have finally actually mostly demilitarized the central Bulgarias. The only army that's left in any of these is Peacocks.
Hmm.
Hey, that useless army. That looks really productive and helpful and happy for everyone. Yeah.
Has
Um,
Peacock like been declining convoys at this point, or was it just no one offering them?
I mean, ever since Peacock disbanded their fleet, they have not at all tried to get their army out of here.
Hmm.
They've been griping for land reform. They've been arguing that I'm a huge threat and I'm like gonna destroy the alliance and destabilize everything. And just generally been useless and a huge stick in the mud. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, just like really annoying.
The
And now they're the only army left in the Bulgarians, and it's like everyone else is able to, hey, look, now our armies are going to start getting convoyed. And what you'll notice is now that we have armies in position, we can start like making moves. So let's go back to the that eastern coast of Austria we were looking at before.
up here.
You'll notice we took the Russian Channel from Devil's Petersburg. And so now we're in the Russian Channel and Inward Ocean, and we've still got the stuff in like the complete domination of these oceans. So like West Aegean and East Aegean and the rest of them are all owned by GTFO as well. So this is why we're able to go for all of these convoys into potentially Austria that is going to cause the entire Austrian country to defend themselves against. Because hey, we're ready to go. And that's because we got these armies in position.
Yep. um,
Yeah.
yeah. So another thing to note here is Fork moving to World's Tear is also threatening a convoy in, right?
Hell yeah.
It's just armies everywhere that can make it there. Of course, you can chain over convoy fleets, so these ones here could make it all the way through to Finn as well. But it was really Adana I was worried about here, because Adana has been pretty rabidly anti-spiral since Chicken declared war on us, basically. Well, I say Chicken declared war on us. Chicken started attacking for Crescent Dots, right? Other players in GTFO are trying to convince us that GTFO is not anti-spiral, and that they would just be convoyed in to attack, like, this area. I was just like...
Yeah, Australia, not Spiral.
It's, like, blatantly obvious what GTFO is going to do if they get in here, so... Yeah, I'm not not letting that happen, or at least I'm gonna try not to let that happen. Yeah. So,
Yeah.
anything else you want to talk about move-wise here?
Yeah. Let's do yeah. So
So
yeah. Before we go to the next phase, let's take a look at the rest of the board to just give the viewers a sense of what's going on. So like Fire's still doing their expansion and pushing into places. And then in France, there's a little bit of instability, but it's not too crazy. There's like some temporary peace, I think, that they made this phase where Fire and the remnants of the French alliance are all saying, okay, we're going to be peaceful. But meanwhile, I think like they're getting into position to do it for stuff and war and things. It's fine.
mhm.
And then if we go look up at like the France, the whatever, yeah, this
North
area,
Sea Alliance is this one up here, yeah.
yeah, this one. Um, Basically, you see Fluminator Heinrichs, the Clag in this game, make a lot of progress pushing
Yes.
into just position to do stuff.
Yeah, so notably he is now allied to the people around him, right? He's allied to Belgrade and to the player in Bucharest, who I think was originally Innsbruck. And you can see he's also working with this player who's in Traun, who I think is Leonding, actually.
Sure.
Yeah, I haven't been following these players enough up here. But notably, Fire has made progress into the north here, if I recall correctly. This player, at the very least, is in Fire, and Brazov, who used to be in OFS, of course, is now working with Fire. So he's what's known as an Ember, which is a member of Fire who is not a senator. They've invited him into the alliance probably because of his map making, right? That generally endeared him to a lot of the people across the board. And so they're gonna try and push forward without killing him. But he doesn't have voting rights, at least not at the moment. He does get stabbed regardless by someone. I don't know who that is, actually. It might be Threeness. But the idea was that Fire was supposed to convoy a unit in here, and they don't do that. They one of the players who's involved in that convoy just walks into Brazov instead.
Yeah.
Yes, and the North Sea Alliance up here, as you've mentioned, Klagenfurt is making progress. North Sea is now on the back foot, having to defend against both the French coming up from the south, and this group of Klag's allies coming in from this side.
Yeah, it is worth noting that the French coming up from the south, they are allies with Spiral, right? Like this whole thing, they've been working together for most of this game now.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
I guess you can see, because this Plovdiv is in Spiral, you can see they have dots all the way alongside Ren's dots. Those two are working together pretty closely. So yes,
Yeah,
this is one cohesive force coming in at the moment.
Yeah, and it's starting to just show that, hey, if you have a ton of armies and fleets, like if you have more units than your enemy, it doesn't matter how cohesive they are, eventually you're just going to overwhelm them.
Yep. We actually missed talking about this in the last episode. I'm very briefly going to go over it because it was kind of important and I didn't look at it at all. Which was the death of Ireland. So this, so this is Ireland, right? They got up to 3 supply centers here, and at this point that makes them one of the biggest players on the board, right? The player in first place, in fact, it makes them the biggest player on the board. There is a 9-way tie for 3 centers in 03. They have Saratov, Volgograd, and Ireland. They stabbed for a lot of those centers. And generally they're not trusted by the players around them. So if you see what happens in the coming year, right, they get attacked by everyone here. They get slipped into by someone in Volgograd. I think that's South Sweden coming in this way. And players are coordinating around Ireland to kill them. And so in 1 year, they get eliminated here. Down from first place to last. So that's a really good backup of your point that it doesn't matter how cohesive your units are if you don't have as many of them as the people around you, right? Because Ireland had perfect cohesion. All three of their units were being controlled by the same player. But of course, they annoyed everyone so much that they just immediately died. So we got a few comments mentioning that we missed that. I did want to talk about it very briefly in this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anything else you want to discuss here, or shall we move along?
I think we can go. Let's go to the next phase.
Okie dokie. So, this is the clean map. I do want to talk a little bit about what was happening to me in this phase before we go through to the post-clean map, right?
Yeah.
To the actual move map, yes, that's a much better way of putting it. So we have GTFO, right, threatening these moves into Finn and stuff like that. We have, of course, a lot of defense around our area, and GTFO are generally trying to say, look, we're going to be friendly to you, Spiral, we're not attacking you, especially with, like, Varna here. I think you guys were trying to convince Varna as well that there was nothing to worry about. Which may have been true in their case.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, Chicken is still... Chicken has been poking at Burgess up to this point pretty repeatedly, so I'm not entirely convinced by that, for obvious reasons. And of course, I want to take Timmy Suara here. That's my dot going forward. But the... Sorry, I've kind of lost my train of thought here. The important thing here is that at this point my allies agree that it's okay for me to go to 2 centers. And something that we mentioned in the last commentary, right, was up to this point I had been deliberately making a point, I'm okay to stay at 1, I don't mind being at 1 pretty much permanently as long as you let me stay in your Spiral Alliance, because the Spiral Alliance was what was keeping me alive, and I didn't really have the position to demand a second dot. So at this point, they agree to give me the second dot. They're going to give me Timmy Suara. They're going to let me keep Wiener Neustadt. I'm a little bit concerned about this, right? Because I don't want to be... I still don't feel like I've completely connected with Dornbirn and St. Polten. And I don't want to be in a situation where one of them stabs behind me for Wiener Neustadt, right? And then I'm on 1 dot in Timmy Suara on the front line against GTFO. I was basically looking at this and going, I'm not sure I actually want to go for that second dot, all things considered. Maybe I should just put St. Polten in. Because as stupid as that sounds, right, giving up a dot where I could be the one getting one, if I put St. Polten in this dot here, he's on the front line against GTFO, I'm still in a safe location. If I go to the coast, then these fleets suddenly become a threat to me. So I do make that offer. I go to St. Polten, look, I think it might be worth you going in instead of me if you're feeling like you want the dot. I think it makes more sense to do it that way, because of course Symphony could be cut here, all kinds of nonsense could happen. I didn't outright say it was because I don't want to be the one on the coast. But, you know, I'm sort of implying that and wondering if his greed for dots will make him go for it. And he doesn't take the bait. He's like, no, it's fine. You can take the second dot here. I'll just help deal with Finn up here and make sure that GTFO can't go in. So I'm like,
You guys are crazy.
Yeah.
Just take the dots, man.
So at that point, I just go, well, okay, I guess I'll go to Timmy Suara. Could you help support me in then? And he's like, well, possibly, but I also need to make sure that they don't get into Finn, right? And they've got 2 fleets here, so, you know. So then I'm like, oh, maybe I don't get Timmy Suara after all, because Burgess is probably going to get cut, and that's the only other unit that can give me the support. But that's whatever. If I don't get into Timmy Suara, then it's essentially the same as what my plan was anyway, right? Which was not to be on the coast. So yeah, I go into the end of this phase thinking there's a decent chance I don't get into Timmy Suara after all, and don't get to 2 dots, but I'm gonna go for it anyway and just hope that I get up to 2, finally, for the first time in this game, right?
Yeah. It'd be a huge milestone for you, Captain Meme.
It really would be. Yeah, so that's pretty much where the negotiations stood before the phase went through here. I had offered the dot to St. Polten. They declined it, so I'm going for it myself. Is there anything you want to talk about before we see the moves?
No, I think we can just go forward.
Alright, in that case, we'll focus on what happens here. Because St. Polten stabs for a dot anyway. So, notably, if Chicken had cut burgers, which seemed incredibly likely given it was what Chicken had been doing constantly through the whole game, right? Then I would not have been able to take this support into Timisoara. I would have bounced back, and here I would have died. So the fact that Chicken decided not to do that, and I think everyone was confused about why Chicken decided not to do this, because everyone was expecting Chicken to just continuously tap burgers. Kragujevac was certainly asking them to. Yeah, I would have died if that had happened. And I miraculously survive once again. This time, getting into Timisoara, while St. Polten goes +1, +2, +3, right? And then minus Styre. So +2 overall, but they are now going to be in complete control of this region at the very least, and they have 2 armies here.
And this is like an official spiral stab, right? They've now stabbed spiral because you were in spiral and Dorn is in spiral.
Yes. So, we've mentioned
So
this a few times over the last couple of episodes, but Spiral had a rule, which was you were allowed 1 stab, and you stay in the Alliance. This is St. Polten's second stab. They stabbed Wells before, so this is an official stab. They have now... Essentially, they have stabbed Spiral properly, and this would be enough to get them kicked out of the Alliance. The problem is, of course, that there's no one in position to punish them for it, which is exactly why they go for it. If I'd been killed here, they could have allied with Kragujevac, and then the only units that can even deal with them are the army in full and the army in Styre, and they have 2 here and 3 here, right? All of Varna's units are fleets, so can't assist, and all of Klagenfurt's units are over here. We're gonna have to look at Klagenfurt in a second, because more happens in this phase than just St. Polten's stab. But yeah.
Yeah, while we're talking about these spiral members stabbing, let's just go over and look at Klagenfurt.
Yes, so, for me, the most important thing that happens in this phase is the St. Polten stab, right? It nearly kills me, but for the rest of the board, there's something much, much bigger that happens in Austria, which is that Klagenfurt stabs everyone. They walk into Bucharest, they walk into Belgrade, they walk into Leoben, and they walk into Traun here.
And Baden.
Yes, and Baden here. So, yeah, they go +5. Right? The St. Polten stab was impressive because St. Polten goes +2 overall. +5 is absolutely insane, and I think that's literally every unit that Clag has. Oh
Yeah.
no, they don't go +5 because Denmark sneaks into Linz behind them, so +4. But every unit they have takes a supply center, which is ludicrous in Chaos. I have no idea how he managed to pull this off, but well done.
Yeah. It's an insane turn.
Absolutely incredible.
And yeah, for the rest of the board, we're in official red alert territory. Right, as Captain Meme has said, he doesn't care. He's on one dot. He's just trying to survive. So he can't afford too many balance of power stuff. But this means that Clag is on 9 centers now.
Yes.
And 9 centers is exactly I mean, well, it's half of 18, and 18 isn't even the number. 15 is the number to win. So Clag doesn't even need to double to literally win the game and just end it. And so everyone hasn't felt too worried about Clag because Clag has been a great diplomat and he's been strong, sure, but he hasn't been winning yet. And it looked like there was a group that was going to stop him in that North Sea alliance and they were going to figure their shit out. But no, turns out that's not going to happen. And he's huge now. And if you look at all of these dots, right, like Innsbruck and Novi Sad and like these dots over here all seem very exposed. And so I'm terrified that Clag is just going to win the game next year. when you look a little more closely, you realize that he's probably not just gonna win, but he can fight pretty hard, and like Linz is not easy to hold, right? Like it's because Clag is building everywhere. That's what makes this position that looks so empty right now. It's going to be pretty reinforced because all of these places are going to have armies in it.
Hmm.
So yeah, he's big, he's bad, and he's really really scary.
Yeah, and important to note because, of course, St. Polten is stabbed in the adjacent Austria, and St. Polten is likely going to focus on the actual enemies that St. Polten has, right? It's very likely that SP just goes to Clag, hey, you focus that way, we keep this demilitarized, you can deal with the coalition on you, and I'm just going to go this way. And of course, that means the player who can do the most, probably, to stop Clag is not going to do so, or is likely not going to do so. Down here, of course, Plovdiv, I think, gets the one build off of Nice. I think that's Plovdiv. Maybe that's not. But Innsbruck is not getting a build because they lost Bucharest. So at most there's one build in this peninsula. If I'm wrong about the nationality of that unit, then there's no units being built in this peninsula, which means Klagenfurt gets the two armies down and can just walk into everything. This is Red Alert territory.
Yep.
Yeah. So, big goings on in Austria right now. That is the name of the phase. Are there such big goings on in GTFO here or not?
No. Um, Nothing. I mean, look, you can look at GTFO. Nothing particularly exciting is happening. Um, we agreed with Varna to let Istanbul back into Karmalund, which is nice, and so hey, he's actually going into a place to do things. And then um, fleets are mobilizing. I get Gaz, which is nice and good. So hey, that deal that I made with Crossroads, where we get her into Crossroads, and then I get Gaz. She got into Crossroads last phase. Now I take Gaz. Boom, happy. This didn't piss off anyone anywhere on the board. Nobody had any problems with this. It was all so clean. And if you believe that, then you haven't been paying attention. Because this caused everyone in GTFO to have so much. They just got so pissed.
Because, of course, they hadn't seen your negotiations with Crossroads, right? You kept that very short.
Oh, yeah.
About
That was a one liner.
getting Gaz, so I imagine their reaction to these moves was, wait, did Ezio stab us? And then maybe Crossroads goes, no, or you link back to the message where you made that agreement.
Yep.
And then they go, what the hell? Why did anyone let this happen?
Yep, more or less. People are astounded that this occurred and absolutely terrified, and it's like, oh god. But I'm only on 5, and like that's not that scary.
I mean,
Like
compared to Clag, it's not scary, but it is.
exactly.
It does put you in, what, second, third on the board, maybe? You're a joint with SP.
Renee is pretty big, right?
Oh, yes, of
Right or
course.
something.
1, 2, 3,
Yeah,
4,
she's
5, 6.
and then also West Berlin, I think.
Uh. Oh, yeah, 7. Wow.
Yeah. So I'm big, but I'm not a board leader, right? I'm just like the most powerful person in GTFO. And
Mm-hmm.
like yeah, I mean whatever, it's fine. Um so yeah, we were doing a bunch of like consolidation and we got a convoy into Russia from Hook, I believe.
Yeah,
I think that's going somewhere into northern
it's going
Russia.
into
Yeah, over into
Teacup.
Teacup. Yeah, Teacup begins being our staging ground as we convoy units because it's an area we control relatively well. With us having units in Devil's Petersburg, and so there's not that much contention.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we can see that here that the Australian control over any of Russia is basically disintegrating, right? This was Bregan's. They lose Samara on this turn to, I think that's Ufa's unit that's getting pushed into Samara. They must be in GTF
Yeah.
in or something. And Bregenz loses this as well, so they end up being on just Novi Pazar back here. I don't know who the blue was originally, but they are getting surrounded here. They, of course, NMR, they lose Innerland, that's going to get force disbanded. And there's a convoy into Ukraine and Teacup at the same time to surround them. So, just a really bad-looking situation for them here.
Yeah, I mean, there's only like one dot, so it's hard for it to look good considering how many units are attacking.
Yes.
Like, more or less, right? Once we cut off the Russian channel and inward ocean, then Australia had no influence on Russia anymore because Russia just didn't have enough dots. Like, there weren't enough units there to fight, and so this was important for the strategic position, and then it didn't
Yeah.
matter anymore.
Notably, the Austrians are doing okay at keeping other people out of Austria. You can see that they managed to kick the unit that was in Brasov back out here. And of course, your convoy into Finn, not yours, but your alliances, right, from Bridge,
Yeah.
which is a crossroads unit, gets bounced out. But of course, Austria is about to have internal chaos to some degree. So, yes. There's...
Yes.
Yeah, that might not be the case for too much longer.
Yeah. So other relevant stuff for this phase. So you'll notice, yeah, I got Crossroads to get convoyed into Finn. They were the one that was going to get in position because I recognize that if we're getting dots, like if GTFO is going to take dots, it's reasonably likely we get dots from Austria. That whether that's Australia or Spiral or whatever, but like the unit in Finn is probably going to get it built.
Mm-hmm.
And so I want people in my district, people that are like loyal to me, to be the ones getting these builds. And so I'm very happy to try to get Crossroads into position to get builds, while of course I'm dotting them. So yeah, I mean that's fine. So uh, yeah. Also, at this point, I just get so fed up with interacting with GTFO that I appoint Crossroads as my internal negotiator. Um, so I'm still a counselor, so I can still vote and do stuff. But I say, hey, if anyone in GTFO who's like not close to me wants to talk to me, talk to Crossroads instead, and let her handle it. And she seems happy with this, and I'm ecstatic about this because I don't want to deal with their shit anymore.
It means that all
And
the
they're giving
complaints
us...
can get lost in the bureaucracy, right?
Yeah, exactly, right? We just paper push, and then we shuffle it around, and then I never hear about it, so I don't have to do anything ever, and whatever. It makes everything happy. And then, like, at this point, I've been short with a lot of people in this game, right? And so it's good to have someone else do it, finally, because maybe she'll be, like, less hostile from the get-go than I am.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that'd be good. Um, yeah. Important stuff. Konya, my beloved. Uh,
Spouse.
yeah, I don't know their gender actually.
You don't
My
know your
spouse.
spouse's gender. Okay.
Yeah. Anyways, Konya, my beloved, is in fact back up to 2 dots, so that's great. That's really nice to have and see. It's a little disheartening to see them working so closely with Partridge because if I need an ally in the eastern part of GTFO, I'm certainly going to need them to mess with Partridge. And so, like, that's the big thing. But, it's since since Kanye's working with Partridge, they're probably not going to fight Partridge, even if push comes to shove. So at this point, I've mostly given up on my marriage having any in-game benefit at this point.
Yep.
Very sad.
Right. I do also see these units holding. They NMR'd in the previous turn. I'm kind of wondering whether Kayseri... I think this is Kayseri? They might be someone else. Have they just checked out of the game? I guess you don't know, because this is on the opposite side to you, right?
Yep, this is on the opposite side. I don't really care. But also, like, what are they supposed to be doing right now, right?
Yeah.
The fleet in Harper Ocean's already convoying a different army out, and then so their fleet in Tallest can't go anywhere, and then their army in Fallen can't do anything. So
Hmm.
it's like,
Yeah.
what are they supposed to do this turn, right? Just stay in positions that keep holding and be fine.
Yes. That's
Oh,
fair.
remember when we said that everyone in the center of GTFO is in the Alliance? I guess that was wrong. I think there's someone in Densley. Um, I think
Denny's,
they
yeah.
were hostile to. I think they stabbed. So, yeah.
Yeah, so they get killed as
So
punishment.
we munch them. Yep.
Yes. I did also note Rostov moves to Omsk. That seems like it was probably a stab
That
from.
seems like it was a gamble.
Oh, right, yes, of course. These two were always playing their poker games or whatever.
They were just always gambling, and Rostov was just always winning. Um, like I don't really get what happened up there because I do remember Omsk being much bigger than Rostov,
Hmm.
and like in GTFO, and then Rostov also was in GTFO, and then
But now Rostov
um,
is much bigger than Omsk, right? They've got one, two, three. Omsk is down to just Warsaw, I think.
yep,
So yeah, hasn't gone very well for them.
yeah, there was a phase. It might be coming up, but I think it was this phase or like around here where we start. No, no, it's not. It's not. They give it a bit.
Okay,
Rostov is now counselor of one of the regions of GTFO at this point.
right.
Much to the chagrin of everyone else, because as described, Rostov is just a shit. But they're one of the people who just is calling me out constantly and like isn't doing anything about it and isn't proposing anything to be done about it. Just constantly saying, "How dare you guys let Ezio get die? How dare you? It's inconceivable." Um, and so just being very useless and just annoying. So we don't
So
like
when
Rostov.
you say to the chagrin of everyone, you mean to the chagrin of you, right? This is
Well, no, because of everyone else in GTFO also hates Rostov because Rostov is just the shit in all of their stuff. The only thing that I cared about was the part that affected me, but and anytime people were having negotiations, Rostov would just be annoying.
I
So
see.
nobody liked Rostov.
The okay, fair enough.
And not in the way that like I don't like Istanbul or like I don't like Adana. Because yeah, I didn't like them because they were like near me and also being very annoying. But Istanbul at least managed to make people think that Istanbul was relevant or useful or something. But and like wasn't pissing off everyone, was really mostly pissing off me by saying, "Hey, can I have some Irfa?"
Hmm.
And I'm like, "No." Um, or like not going into Serpent's Bay and then being like, "Hey, we got pushed back a year." And you'll notice, right, that if in the spring of last year, uh,
Yeah, this
that
has gone
if
again.
last year that fleet from Istanbul was in Serpent's Bay, we probably would have gotten Burgas, and we probably actually would have ensured that meme died last year.
It,
Funnily
it
enough.
seems quite likely, yes.
Yeah, and we would have probably taken Burgas, and like maybe they would have gotten a build from Burgas, or maybe Chicken would have gotten the build, or who knows.
So
But
I've got to
instead,
applaud two people here: the Istanbul for not getting into position, and Chicken for not cutting this for some reason, so that I live. Um,
yeah, yeah, you owe your life to Istanbul. Yep.
Yep. Man. Yeah, this is again a continuation of the theme that I have plot armor after I got saved by Zeus in the previous episode.
Yeah.
But I'm not feeling great about it because while I am quite happy that I'm alive, I am now surrounded by GTFO and a stabber on this side, right? And I'm in that coastal dot that GTFO want to get. So I'm just like, oh my god, what am I gonna do from here? Oh man. All right.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to talk about here?
Not for moves, but before we go on next stage, we got stuff to talk about for sure.
All right. Well, let's look at here. This is the winter. I think pre-builds. Do you want to talk about stuff before the builds go through?
Yeah. So at this point, like again, we've noticed that it's red alert. Clag is winning. Yikes, yikes. And everyone on the map is globally being like, all right, guys, we need to work together to deal with them, with him, Clag, the
Yeah.
final boss, the raid boss himself. We gotta go.
The,
Um, And so GTFO is entirely on board with this. Obviously, I love this idea because GTFO like can't do much to mess with Clag. And so if our neighbors have to divert more of their resource to thing with Clag, that's great. And then I figure out that what we can do to mess with Clag is just put armies in Austria in general and like increase the density over there and then get ready to start attacking Clag that way. And that's great for us because us putting armies in Austria is just good news for the alliance in general because there's dots. There's a lot of dots in Austria, right? It's the second biggest region, period. Like
Yep.
6 Austrias, 5 dots per Austria, so or 6 dots per Austria.
I think there's 6 per Austria. Yeah, it's a lot
Yeah,
more
geez, right.
SC dense than most of the other regions.
Yeah, so getting armies over there is huge. Um, so that's great. And then for me personally, if I can set it up so that my district members and my neighbors are the ones convoying their armies out, then everyone else is convoying their armies out. And since they recognize that there are dots to be had, that you can make gains over there, then people are actually excited about these convoys. So I don't have to push quite so hard to get people to actually want these convoys. Also, the people in my district will kind of do whatever I say at this point.
Yep.
Like it's just become that, and like Mirage has been so inactive that I mean, again, people in my district, to be clear, it's Mirage, Crossroads, and Syria. And Syria's entire game has been spent like with fire being annoying, and so they've just been sitting in Syria forever.
Mhm.
And at this point, like that's all they're ever going to be good for is just the buffer because they've managed to maintain decent-ish relationships with fire, um, despite being in a different alliance, which is somewhat impressive, but also hasn't gotten fire to agree to give them anything ever. So, rip.
Mhm. Yeah.
Anyways, I'm all in on let's go get as many armies convoyed over to Austria as possible.
And you want
And
them
I
to be
believe
Mirages and Crossroads, really, right?
Mirages, Crossroads, Peacocks would be nice. Wouldn't that be cool? And then anything else that we can get, yeah. But those ones, the Mirage and the Mirage is the big one. I just would love to see Mirage get their 2 armies convoyed away, and then leave everything just for me.
Yep.
Which will be pretty sweet. So Fire is also on board with making progress against Flag. Like they recognize, hey, Flag is a huge threat. They have some units in the area, right? They've been trying to attack this like northern part of Austria for a while,
Yeah.
and they've got a couple of armies. I think like Strara or whatever. Stara is theirs.
So this is
Is
theirs.
Craiovia
Brazov is
theirs?
an Ember at this point, who is the player in
Yeah.
Zrenjanin. And I think Craiova is working with them. I'm not 100% sure on that one. That I know Craiova split from the Austrians at some point, but I don't know whether they're actively working with Fire or not. I think they probably are. But notably, Craiova was the one who supported Clag in on the previous turn against the rest of the Austrians, right? So he was trying to break up this alliance down here, and successfully did. So yeah, Fire has made progress. It's in here,
Yeah, and are interested in working against Clag, which is the big part of it. So, I think SP just outright said they weren't going to attack Clag.
Yeah,
right?
it was
Yeah, I'm
something
pretty
along
sure
those lines.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure SP was just like, yo, I'm not going to attack Clag anymore. But with Clag and SP stabbing Spiral on this phase, this meant Varna felt very insecure about being in Spiral, and as Varna's been working with us for most of this game now, Varna was like, hey, can I just join GTFO? Um, and I was like, hell yeah. And you know what? Well, we can do you one better. We can make you the counselor of district in GTFO. Because Varna was just so active. And I think Adana was getting more and more checked out of the game at this point. And so I believe Adana didn't want to be... because, to be clear, Adana was checked out because I had just gotten this extra dot from Crossroads, and we've just had another hissy fit where we've been fighting with each other and arguing over, hey, you do your stuff, don't worry about me, I'm fine over here, just focus on yourself. And I suspect Adana was just like, fed up with this crap. And so we inducted Varna into GTFO, this 3-dot power, and then we made them counselor of the district that was next to me.
Yes.
And this was so nice.
Mm-hmm.
Because I can work with Varna. I've been talking to Varna. Varna's a reasonable neighbor who has secured growth for themselves and is doing stuff and like isn't constantly just giving me shit. And it means now that we're going to have really complete control over Carmelond, and maybe we don't need to bounce in it forever, and we can like push out from it. So that was very significant for us. And if we're looking at convoys out of the Turkish main region, using Varna's fleets for this will be hugely beneficial.
Yeah, notably you can't convoy through Carmelond, right? You have to land in Carmelond and then go for the rest of the convoy.
Yeah, it's so absurd. It's just like,
I mean, it's a
annoying...
coastal province, right? Basically, it's a land province, so you can't convoy through it.
Yeah, but it's just like, why does Tears End or Sea's End or whatever exist, right? Why does Finn exist? And why do that and Carmelont both exist?
Wait,
right?
Which ones are you talking about?
I'm talking about Sea's End, right? These provinces that you can convoy through, right? And yet you also have Carmelont, which is like a high seas province, but it's not really a high seas province. It's just like a high Denmark.
You can hear the frustration in Ezio's voice because being able to convoy through Carmelont would make mobility so much easier for GTFO.
Yeah, it really would.
Yep.
And as I spent so much time looking at this, I realized that moving stuff through Carmelon is impossible. It is so annoying to get through Carmelon. And similarly, if you can't get into Syria, getting to attack me is also impossible. And so this is a thing that just ruminating in the back of my mind here, I'm recognizing, my position is actually ridiculously defensible. Because, Syria is really hard to take from the outside. And if they try to get in to attack me through Crossroads, it's similar to Syria. Crossroads is a little easier to take, but not that much easier. So, thoughts for later.
Yep. Alright. Well, yes, another thing to mention here, Varna at this point officially gets themselves renamed with the GMs to Odysseus. So we may interchangeably call them that going forward. I know I knew them as Odysseus pretty well going forward, so I might slip into saying that more than Varna. But that is the same player, if we say either of those things. They just wanted a name that was more Turkish, I guess, or Byzantine, maybe? I don't know where Odysseus is. But yeah. So, yes, this link connects up to what was going on with me, right? Because, of course, St. Polten has just stabbed here. Now, Klagenfurt also stabbed. Spiral basically disintegrates at this point. It turns into a pact between St. Polten and Clag, and of course that means that the rest of us are not really part of it anymore. We're sort of still calling ourselves Spiral, but we don't have any power that Spiral has, right? I'm 1 dot here, Dornburn's in 1 dot here, and has to get rid of one of their armies, and we're separated from the other non-stabby Spiral members by a huge amount of territory. It's really just Plovdiv and Innsbruck, who are the other Spiral members left, because of course Varna has left and joined GTFO. So, on that basis, I'm 100% sure I want to work with Dornburn. That's because they were also stabbed at the same point as me. I'm fairly sure I can trust them moving forward. They were the one person, or one of the people in Spiral who never used up their free stab, right? And they've been pretty nice throughout. So I want to try and work with them to keep myself alive. I mean, I'm also quite interested in working with them because, of course, they're the only other person who can help deal with St. Polten from this position. But prior to this, I've been shouting out a lot of, GTFO bad, we need to bring down GTFO, let's try and get them to collapse from inside, right? Maybe we can make a stab happen. At this point, when St. Polten stabs, I shut up about all of that immediately. Because you'll notice GTFO is now right next to me, and if they work with St. Polten, which St. Polten is trying to get them to do, I will be instantly dead. So instead,
Yeah.
I send out an emergency signal and go, hey, GTFO, please come and help land as many armies in Austria as possible. I will help you do so. We need to deal with St. Polten. If I recall correctly, your first response was, why don't we just kill Meme as well? Am I right on that?
I think there might be a phase off here. I think I first let you help us get a convoy into Symphony.
Okay.
And then I say, let's kill me.
Alright, we'll get to that in a second then.
Because, after all, it doesn't make sense to threaten someone until you already have the knife at their throat.
This is true. It's worth noting, we haven't mentioned it in this episode, I am still the Emperor of the Empire, the kind of meme alliance that I've been inviting random people to, that began in France with Squaris, and then went down to just having Liverpool and Portugal, who I think is now dead. So really just Liverpool is the original member of it. And then the crown has passed to me. Ezio is in the Empire still, along with actually a decent number of GTFO people, including Diyarbakir, I think Ezeram is in it, and Partridge, are all in this kind of meme alliance, and I've been making friends with them through doing that. So I'm hoping I can leverage that, at least, for some goodwill, right? I certainly need it.
Yeah.
Yeah, shall we move to builds, then, to see the builds?
Yeah, let's look at all of Clag's armies.
Yeah, man.
Oh, that's so
1, 2,
beautiful.
3, 4. Imagine if Denmark hadn't walked into Linz. This is just, like... insane.
If Denmark doesn't tap Linz, this game looks quite different. In negotiations through this phase, Clag starts talking to everyone, saying, hey guys, I can't win. My position's not going to happen. I'm not actually going to get anywhere. I just did this stab because I was annoyed about fire, and I forget he made random noises. I forget what it was. But he was saying stuff to people and talked about how he wasn't actually going to win. And I suspect if he gets into Linz, he's going to try to make some of those same noises, but it's going to be a lot less convincing.
Yeah. I feel like he's telling people at this point that he's going to back out of certain dots as well, but no one's really believing him, right?
Yeah, I think Baden is the one that he's talking about that, right? Because Baden he can't hold anyways.
Yeah.
Yeah, he talked about Baden, and it was like, hey, I can't hold Baden. It doesn't get me anything, but, come on, I have 5 units, take 5 dots. You gotta go for it. So, full respect. See dot, take dot.
And of course, Plovdiv did get the build from Nice. That is Plovdiv, I guess. So there is one army here to try and prevent Clegg from running over this Austria, but god, that's going to be difficult, right? You can't really fight this with one army, and weirdly, there's no fleets around either to convoy stuff in. The entirety of northern France is just completely empty here. So, maybe this unit can come back from Lisbon, but that's about...
Yeah, there's one army that can get convoyed back in, and it can get convoyed straight into Novi, guaranteed, because of the support, if they want to go for it.
Oh, yeah, because of ISE.
Yeah, I don't know if they go for that, I forget. They're in a different alliance, they're talking in different group channels, so I don't pay nearly that much attention to them. I just focus on the GTFO area of it, and GTFO is primarily focusing on attacking SP, basically.
Yeah.
Because SP has said that he's not going to attack
Klagenfurt? Yes.
I think so.
Right. So, shall we go to moves? Is there anything you want to talk about before moves?
No, I think we can go to moves.
Okie dokie. Well, let's go forward then. And you can see the convoy starting to happen, right? There's an attempted convoy into Symphony from GTFO, gets bounced out by St. Polten, and there's a successful convoy into Finn, which is Crossroads' army down here.
Success, look at that.
Yeah.
Oh, you know what? I guess we were wrong. I guess my sense of timing was off. It looks like SP does agree to help us with Clegg. I think, because like SP doesn't go after Nis or anything,
Oh,
right?
okay.
So SP moved west. So okay.
Hmm. I do
I
remember,
mean,
like, SP was desperately trying to get people to side with him against the people around him for obvious reasons, right? Especially GTFO. So that was a bit of a war of words with myself and Dawnburn and Crescent, because we were all trying to convince GTFO to come in and help us coalition uh, the
yeah, but I don't know why.
SP.
Why on earth do people want to work? Anyways, to me,
Well, we'll get
obviously,
to
I'm
that.
saying, yeah, and my eyes here, right? Like when if SP is offering, hey, I'll help GTFO eat Crescent and Timmy in exchange, I'll go and attack Clag.
Mhm.
Like, just snap that off. Yeah, of course. What a great deal.
Yes,
Um,
and here's the thing. I don't know if it was right now that you decide to start saying this, right? I think it is after the moves go through.
yeah,
But you do actively start pushing for GTFO to work against myself and Dawnburn, and of course for me and Crescent, and for me specifically, I'm like, oh God, that will kill me if you do that. Because SP still has a unit here that they're retreating into Kragujevac, right? They can very easily help a convoy into Timisoara while Chicken cuts burgers, something like that, and then I'm just dead. So I start a bit of an anti-Ezio tirade. I kick you out of the Empire, because at this point you are still in the Empire, and I use the clause that I instituted, which is basically, the Empire has very few rules, right? It's a meme alliance. The one clause that I implemented was you cannot in any way aid in the destruction of the Emperor. And so I call you calling for GTFO to side with SP as breaking that clause, and I kick you out. And actually, some of the other GTFO members are very supportive of that. I think it helped me quite a lot, especially with like Partridge. I don't remember if Diabikir was very happy with it as well, but they were all kind of laughing at the fact that I was kicking you out of the alliance and they got to stay in. I know that Odysseus was also part of the Empire at that point, so was also quite like found it very funny. And all of those voices from people who were in the Empire kind of came together and overruled you, as far as I'm aware, right? It's
yeah, I guess that's what happened, but it's just incredibly dumb because all of these people, like, there's a bunch of dots in that Austria that Chicken, Istanbul, and Adana could get. These people who have been yelling at me for the entire game about how they're not growing and how it's unfair that I'm on 5 and they're on 1 and 2. And it's like, here is a golden opportunity for you guys to grow and get dots. Take it. But instead, they're like, no.
no, we like
And I'm
Captain
like,
Meme too much.
it's just insane,
Well, I
right?
think a
It's
big
like,
part of it is also that you've invited Varna into your alliance, and Varna is not confident that St. Polten is going to stick with them, right? In fact, they're pretty sure that St. Polten is coming for them at this point, I think. So, yeah, their voice is definitely lending itself to not going for me and Dawn, and instead aligning with us and attacking SP. Uh,
yeah.
yeah. You can see that Chicken actually does want to take your side here, at least for the moment. They're trying to support
Because
the convoy into Burgers.
yeah, because it obviously gets progress. It's very good for Chicken.
Hmm.
Um, Chicken has been one of my staunchest supporters, has been a neighbor, and has just been a great friend this entire time.
Hmm.
Uh, yeah. We can look around more stuff in GTFO and see that we're getting units convoyed into position. So I get this convoy into Fork. My army from Constantinople, I just convoy up into Fork myself. And oh, there's a thing here. Yeah, Istanbul asked to die.
Hmm.
Yeah, because Istanbul got so pissed that Crossroads gave me a dot that Istanbul is now saying, "All right, Partridge, you get my dot in Esk." Um, and so now Partridge is gonna get convoyed and is gonna take it. And here is the first phase that I start this fall. Is the first phase that I start really considering should I stab GTFO? Because if you look at my position with my units, I mean we can look at where the units are, but it's a pretty juicy stab right now. Um,
This is where the units.
yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So I've got Ghost Basin, Fork, Storm Basin, and Gaz, which can all take dots. Like
Yeah.
Ghost Basin takes Istanbul, Fork takes Adana, probably. Um, and then Storm Basin and Gaz can take Marash and Ankara, and then suddenly, hey, we just saw Flume stab from 5 dots to go to 9. Here, I would do something similar, and I could even have Carmelon go after Constanta, for example. Um, and so that's pretty juicy. Um, I decide against it, but every phase from here for the rest of the game, I'm going to be considering should I stab GTFO in this phase?
Hmm.
Is it worth going for? What makes me decide against it is I'm looking for my path to 15. And if I go for this stab here, and even if I get these dots to go to 9, I don't have a great follow up. Um, Like trying to hold Adana that center is going to be really rough with Adana having a fleet in Handel Basin. What I was contemplating doing was a different variation of the stab where Fork bounces in Esk and Fleet Ghost Basin moves into Istanbul because that would actually kill Adana. They would lose both of their units, so their fleet in Handel Basin, Army, and World's Tear get disbanded. So that would be quite good for me. But letting in order for me to get to 15, I'm going to need to have a solid number of the Bulgaria dots in kind of every universe. And so waterfowl is going to be critical. And unfortunately, this is a phase where Partridge is going to 5, and I can't stop it. If I stab this fall, Partridge would be able to build a fleet on either Pheasant South Coast or Partridge West Coast, probably Partridge West Coast, and therefore bounce fire back out of waterfowl. So I won't be able to take waterfowl if I go for a stab this phase. I need to find a phase where Partridge doesn't get a build, and that's when I need to make my stab.
Hmm.
And I need to try to do it in such a fashion where ideally I can also get Peacock's army convoyed out of the way, because that army's going to be a little annoying.
As you've been trying to do for the entire game.
Yeah, but this phase is when it really starts to kick off because you'll notice like we are getting armies convoyed out, right? We got these armies convoyed to Fork. We've been getting stuff convoyed out in 2 places, and I think this phase actually I think Peacock moves into Gaz. If you look at the previous phase, we can talk about stuff.
Yeah, so the phase that
Because
just happened.
he had agreed to move the Fireback. He had agreed to make this move where he was then going to get convoyed into Essence. Um, and so this move into Gaz is a stab, like another explicit, just hey, broke a deal. This is ridiculous.
Mhm.
And so now here's where I try to push to get Peacock to actually officially kicked out of the alliance because hey, if we can just eat Peacock, wouldn't that be great?
Does it work?
Um, no, of course not.
Yeah, people at this point are like looking at you and going, I think he's trying to kill anyone who opposes him around him, right?
Well, I got Istanbul to want to kill themselves, so that's not my fault.
It's an achievement in the game of diplomacy. Getting someone to want to kill themselves.
In the game,
God.
in the game.
Yeah.
This is purely in the game. But yeah, I was successfully annoying enough to Istanbul that they wanted to be out of the game rather than interact with me. This is not a good thing. I
No.
don't right like I don't play diplomacy to be annoying, but I do play diplomacy to win, and like sometimes that's gonna happen.
It's worth noting that, like, diplomacy is quite an emotional game, right? At times when you're talking to people constantly, and especially when you feel like there's nothing you can do about a situation that's very blatantly. Where it's a situation is very blatantly not in the interest of certain people, and you're trying to convince them that it's not in their interest, and they're just giving you nothing. And of course, in Chaos, that effect is compounded massively because you're on 1 dot, so quite a lot of the time you can't say the things that you want to be saying. And when you do get like so frustrated, and that frustration builds up and up and up. So for example here, I assume Eski is going to Crossroads. Why the hell did you make this agreement, kind of thing? Why is Mirash just walking out and letting Ezio get everything adjacent to them? They shouldn't be doing this. But Istanbul really shouldn't say that, because they're on 1 dot next to you, and their fleet was being forced to move out of Carmelond, right? But once it bursts forward, once you've said that, you're kind of screwed. At a point, you say something that you really shouldn't have said, and quite often that can get you killed. So at that point, you just go, well, you know, screw it. I'll just do what I can to screw over the person that I think needs to be screwed over. Which is what Istanbul is trying to do here. They're trying to increase Partridge's control in the Alliance to make sure that you don't get more dots, like more control yourself. Whether it's strategically good, I mean, obviously it's not strategically good to die, but, you know, we're not seeing all the press that's going on here, and there's quite a lot of press contributing to this kind of thing. I have quite a lot of experience of being in a position in a Chaos game where I can't say what I want to say because I'm on 1 dot and I will die if I say it.
To be clear, Istanbul did not have that problem. Istanbul was just saying whatever. And was absolutely yelling at Crossroads and Mirash for doing all of this stuff, and like was one of the staunchest, like, oh my god, how can you let Ezio do anything? This is ridiculous, and it's unbelievable that Ezio's on 5 dots, and whatever.
Mm-hmm.
I am going to point out that I think it's a bit ridiculous to be complaining about not growing when you had a position, when you had the ability to grow, and he chose not to, right? He chose to go back into Ghost Space instead of going into Serpent's Bay. And now that he is able to grow, is choosing to die instead of actually accepting that growth.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's one thing to feel hopeless, it's another thing to actually be hopeless and be powerless. And in Chaos, he's never going to die. Unless I choose to stab him. Well, like, if I stab him, then okay. And he was safe for a long time because GTFO was powerful enough. And he needed to take advantage of that when he had the opportunity. But he didn't. And now he's on 1 dot and is just given up. And so, yeah, if you're trying to oppose me, this is, like, staying on 1 dot is not an effective way to do that. Right?
I do kind of get it, though. Like, particularly in my experience, I'm a very paranoid player, right? So when I get into an alliance, I generally don't want to be the one moving units out. If I was in Istanbul's position, I would have been very cautious about moving a unit all the way out here while I only had 1 dot. I would be trying to negotiate to get a 2nd dot inside GTFO before I start moving units out, which is probably why I end up in these sorts of situations so often, where I have 1 dot and I'm not able to grow at all, and I'm just kind of trying to survive for the whole thing. You can tell that people who believe more in the alliance, or who are able to manipulate the alliance to let them get the dots they need to get, often do much better than I do.
Yeah, sometimes.
Yes. Okay. So, is there anything else you want to talk about these moves? I guess we didn't really look at what's going on in the anti-Clag coalition. Because Clag is moving into, like, Innsbruck here and trying to take Sofia. They do get knocked out of Baden, but they actually get into Wolfsburg as well. And really, the only units that get into position to oppose them are this unit getting into East Silesia, that's one of Denmark's units, and fire convoying a unit into Arch. In fact, that's not the... Is that the... No, that's this unit in Apulia, right? So yeah, it's not a hugely effective coalition at this point, but Clag does have to dedicate a lot to make progress, because there are still quite a lot of units around him.
I think Ronnec subbed this phase.
Yeah. Oh, right, that would make sense. That's a pretty big thing, actually, that happens on this board. So, I think Ren stabbed for West Berlin or something similar, right? Maybe I think they got West Kiel by agreement and then stabbed for West Berlin. And then everyone around them starts talking about how they need to die as well, especially because they were working closely with Clag, and of course Clag is a huge threat now. And I think there are points in a Chaos game where it's tough to face the consequences of your actions, right? Especially when people just start outright talking about your death in front of you, and they won't be convinced by anything. So at this point, the original Rens player subs out, and a new Rens player comes in, and they're in this situation where they're like, oh, everyone is attacking me, what do I do now? Right? Which is tough.
Yeah, it's a tough one.
They lose West Kiel here, they get knocked out of the Mid-Atlantic Ocean, they're not getting attacked on inland France, but they do lose Cordoba, so it's all not great on that front for them.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's tough. Yeah.
Right, I also wanted to call attention to Nile and embarring in the Harper Ocean. So, for those who haven't seen the previous episodes, you should have seen them. Nile has been continuously going back and forth between Harper Ocean and Nile in a state of paranoia, right? And now they finally get out again, and now they're just edamaring. Incredible. Anything else you want to talk about here?
I don't think so.
Okay. There is something quite relevant to me that happens before the next moves, so I will talk about that as we move to the clean map. This is the retreats. Yeah, we see this retreat coming into Kragujevac. One of the few phases where the retreats were on a separate board, apparently. I really hope moving ahead gives me the clean map. Yeah, there we go. From this situation, obviously Ezio has been continuously saying we should just kill Timisoara. We should kill Feld and Crescent.
CaptainMeme specifically.
Yeah. I'm going... see, at this point, I'm basically going to the players around, going, look, we need to work together against St. Polten. You should work with the remnants of Spiral, right? You should work with Dawnburn. You should work with me. You should work with Crescent. Chicken is a very vocal person against that. They want Burgess, and that is what they're focused on right now. And I am trying everything I can to get them to not want to take Burgess, to do something else, right? And they are just not accepting it. I try and talk to Istanbul about, hey, is there anything you'd be willing to do instead? Maybe you would do... Maybe you want to get a dot, right? Maybe we can get you into Crag. And they go, no, I want to die this turn. And I hadn't been following the GTFO chat at all, so I was like, wait, what? Why? Why are you trying to die? And then I get an explanation of everything Ezio has already explained to you down here. And more annoyingly, Istanbul goes, well, I want my final action to be something impactful for GTFO, so I'm gonna get Crescent into Burgess. And I'm just like, I'm gonna get Chicken into Burgess even, so I'm just like, oh my god. So then starts a complex round of negotiations where I was talking to people in GTFO and trying to get various people in GTFO to put pressure on Chicken not to take Burgess from Crescent, right? Because I do have some friends in GTFO, namely the players who are in the Empire. They're not hugely successful in doing this, but eventually I managed to cut a deal with Chicken where instead I will support them into Kragujevac, and Crescent will help that, right? They'll take a convoy across to here, and they will leave Burgess as being Crescent's, and Crescent will stay alive on 1. And I was, really proud of this agreement, because it was a pretty big turnaround from what Chicken was originally trying to do in this phase. The problem was, I made this agreement without consulting Crescent at all, because I was basically desperately trying to negotiate for their survival, right? Lim is not doing anything useful here. Burgess is on the east coast, so it can't actually help take Kregujevac or get into Kregujevac. This is literally Crescent's only chance of survival, is what I'm negotiating for here. I'm hard aligned with Crescent. I would like them to survive. So, yeah, I go ahead and make this deal. And then Crescent comes back and goes, no. You shouldn't have made this deal without me. It's, if GTFO take this deal, they are just going to kill me on the next turn, because Crescent will go to here, someone will backfill Crescent, or, Chicken will build another unit here, and then they'll just take Burgess immediately afterwards. And I was like, well, look, we could... I think they would stick to their word. I think we could put pressure on them through other people in the Alliance, stuff like that. Crescent is just like, no, I'm not interested in the deal. I don't want to take it. I was just like, head in my hands, like, oh no, I don't want to be against GTFO here. But at this point, Sankt Polten takes advantage of this and goes, hey Chicken, I'll support you into Burgers, we can work together, right? And Istanbul locks in a support to Burgess as well, and Samson, who is this player in Inward Ocean, who is also in GTFO, locks in a support to Burgess. I'm like, oh my god, Chicken is my ally. Not Chicken is my ally, Crescent is my ally, but they've just alienated themselves from GTFO. If I throw in my support with them here when they're definitely dead, then Ezio is going to use that, or someone else in the GTFO is going to use that as an excuse why I should die as well. So, if we look at the moves on the next phase, you can see I don't state this beforehand, but I enter my own support for Chicken into Burgess as well. Say after the phase, Chicken, I really wanted to work with you, I wanted to get you into Kregujevac. Crescent made that impossible, but I still want to work with you, and I did this support to show it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's what happens on this front. Dawnburn actually manages to guess correctly over here as well, which is incredible. It means Sankt Polten doesn't manage to get into position around them. And they get to build in Styre, so I'm pretty okay with that results. Now I just need to make sure that GTFO don't attack me.
I am very happy that it's Crescent who got this build from Burgos. Because
Chicken,
Chicken, yeah. Because they have Crescent open, and so Crescent is going to be the spot that they build. Because at this point, my number one priority is getting as many armies, units in general, out of the center of GTFO as possible. Right? I want all of these units to just get out of here. But you'll notice that Adana moved from Handel Basin into Istanbul. I believe this unit was supposed to be going up into Ufa and then going out that way. And so it coming back to Istanbul is definitely not going the other way. And World's Terror walks back to Adana, which also makes me feel really smart about not trying to go for a big old stab this last phase. And instead, in this phase, it would have been pretty brutal. And instead, I just convoy my army from Fork, nice and back to Constantinople. Just okay. We'll keep it safe. That's fine.
Was there a good, did you tell people you were going to do this? What was...
Nope.
Were people okay with you putting an army back in the center? Especially after you've spent so much time telling Peacock they need to get their army out of the center, right?
Well, mine isn't in Bulgaria, notably. Mine is in a Constantinople equivalent, which is less of a big deal. And I can, if nobody did question it, but if they were going to question it, I can point out that my army in Constantinople is very flexible because it's next to two different basins. So it can get convoyed kind of anywhere I want. If I wanted to go to Stormwall or back to Fork, right, it has a lot of flexibility here. Whereas that army in Bulgaria has less flexibility. There's no fleets in Feather Basin even, so it can't go anywhere. So, yeah, and then you notice I give it a love tap, that army in Peacock. So if it tries to do anything messy, then I'm at least going for it. But not trying to kill it or anything, but this raised some eyebrows. But I have reached my phase of interacting with GTFO where I am not gonna. I already have Crossroads as my domestic negotiator, right? My point of contact for the rest of GTFO, so I don't have to talk with them that much. And telling them about things that I'm going to do that's going to piss them off is just going to piss them off. But if I just do moves, they're so much quieter about it and care so much less. So, yeah, I just conflict back to Constantinople, and that's fine.
Yeah. Okay, fair enough. And Partridge gets the extra dot that you were talking about, right? They're going to get a build, but because
Yeah.
you didn't stab, it's not going to be anything aggressive to you, I assume, which is
Well, I
good
mean, it can
news.
be in pheasants though.
Yeah, that is possible. I guess we'll see. The fact that Istanbul moved everything back makes Pheasant an appealing build spot for them, I guess, just in case.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh God, is this a phase? I don't think so. I think sorry, I got time. I got time. Stuff happens. There's a lot of stuff that happens in this game, believe it or not, fellas.
yes.
And this phase isn't nothing too crazy happens here. But I'm gonna use this as an opportunity to start talking about stuff. With Istanbul literally dying to give Partridge a dot, specifically to spite me, um, it has made me realize that most of the eastern part of GTFO is similarly demilitarized to my ideal western part of GTFO. Right? If
Mhm.
you look at the position that Partridge has, there is no threat there. Partridge has fewer units in the core than I do because Partridge has something out in like Quarry and Partridge has a fleet in like somewhere
Mid-Atlantic
in one of the
Ocean,
Mid
yeah.
Atlantic Ocean, right? So Partridge is much less heavily concentrated, but Partridge is still going to have 3 units. They have 2 in the center, and then they're going to get a build. And I recognize people are talking about it. We're like, people are explicitly saying that they're happy for Partridge to like take their dots, right? People are just like saying that.
Mm.
Um, and that's like a scary thing for me to be seeing because I'm trying to win. Um,
Yeah.
and so GTFO, right, we might have mentioned it, but one of the things that people talked about and thought about was that GTFO is going to throw to someone at some point. Um, which like I was only okay with because I thought I just right when you replace that someone with Ezio and you just erase it, and then you say GTFO will throw to Ezio at some point this game, then it can feel okay. So that's how I can sign that constitution is I like have temporary like I don't know what to call it, but that's the only way that I was okay with it. When I get the sense now that GTFO is probably going to throw to Partridge instead of me, oh.
Yeah. I I really hate agreements like that, right? It just
Oh
feels
yeah.
very because diplomacy is about getting people to agree to do things that aren't in their interest, right? So technically that is in the spirit of diplomacy, getting people to throw to you. But so many people just deciding I don't care about the my own game end position. I only care about making sure that the alliance that I'm in has someone who wins the game. That just feels really, really bad. Um, I get why you were happy with it while it was pro you. I get
Yeah.
why Partridge is happy with it if it might be pro them. I would be very annoyed with the rest of GTFO if this was more immediately relevant to me, right? I kind of just assumed it was something being said by everyone at the start and that it was never actually going to happen. Um,
Yeah, I also kind of assumed that, but like that was before. I mean, Crossroads just gave me a thought in exchange for getting back to their home. But
mhm.
like, at least Crossroads got something from it, and like being in Crossroads is a lot safer than being in Gaz, and so like there's something to be said for that. But having Istanbul literally say, "Hey, Partridge, kill me. You get to die," right? That's things are changing there. So it's now like GTFO has kind of been about me and like a bunch of smaller people, and Partridge has been like the other big person in GTFO, and now it's very much yeah, GTFO is just me and Partridge,
Yes.
and everyone else is kind of irrelevant.
Yeah.
So that's what it's like very clearly becoming, and so yeah, there's how do things go from there? Other good news in this phase, though, right? The stuff with Istanbul dying is cool and all, but we'll notice that Mirage is starting to get convoyed. So originally, I was trying to get Peacock to move their army into Fireback, and then I was going to convoy that army from Peacock into Essence. Since Peacock didn't do that, fine. I convoy Stormwall up into Essence, so Mirage can do it, and then we're going to get that army convoyed, and then Mirage's army from Journey is getting convoyed all the way down somewhere into Austria.
I think
Into
it's the one
Finland,
that
looks like.
gets Oh no, it
No,
does get
is the one
convoyed
that goes to
into
the Finn.
yeah,
Yeah,
Finn.
that's another.
This
That's one
one
from
is
Fire if they get armies in tail.
this one is Messina, and then there's another one that comes down from Panama into Russia
Okay.
here. Yeah.
Top of the world, I guess. Top of the world. Yeah.
Yes.
Anyways, but yeah, so it's like you can see right where GTFO is doing a good job getting armies convoyed out, and Fire is even getting armies convoyed into Austria because we recognize we need to stop Clag from winning. Clag is huge, and we need to just assert maximum pressure as long as possible. And it's a really good thing we do this because I forgot I was wrong about SP by the way. SP was trying to hedge and be on the fence about things. And like SP was telling us they were going to work with us, and I was like, okay, well, as long as you keep working with us, then it's fine. But I want me to be in position to start to punish you if you don't. And so that's why we're going to get armies convoyed out here. And thankfully, we got it to work with Coral tapping Dorn. So even though Dorn sniped Nis, it's not the end of the world.
Yeah.
So that's good. And then we get Syria. Syria gets out into South Spiral. And this is something that I'm supposed to be happy about, and I'm really not. I was really happy when Syria was just in Syria the entire game. Because Syria was in a buffer that I had that kept me safe forever. But
now if Fire decides to go for Syria, there's less of a chance that you can stop it, right?
Yes.
But you're working strongly with Fire, right? Everything will be fine, right?
Everything will be fine. Surely.
Notably, everyone working together in the north to deal with Clag is, of course, not helping the French, who are now fully under assault from Fire. You will have noticed in the last couple of turns, maybe if you looked over here, that things looked relatively peaceful in this area outside of what was happening to Rennes. But I think the attack on Rennes kind of made Fire more confident about going in on the south side as well. And they just decide to put it into action to attack everyone. So yeah, this is what happens now. Fire rotates to go all in on this entire area. And the French people are sort of, some of them are trying to make an alliance against it, others of them are working with Fire in the hope that maybe they can be accepted in. You can see that Reims, who is here in Nantes, is actually supporting a Fire unit up into Nice, kicking out Plovdiv, who is of course supposed to be part of the coalition against Clag. In fact, maybe they're working with Clag now, I don't know. But yeah, and then other ones are just scrambling, trying to get dots. Things are chaos in France. Is what you need to take away from that one.
Yeah.
And then, of course, the bit we completely ignore because we weren't really close enough to figure out what was going on here is the North Sea Alliance all working together against Rennes and Clag. Although it's not very successful. You can see that Belgrade gets support held by Aetherlands but doesn't take the support hold, tries to move into Belgrade instead, and then gets kicked out. I say that's Belgrade, I don't think it's actually Belgrade, I think it's like Salzburg or something who's been moved all the way into Sofia. But yeah, Clyde gets an extra dot here, they get an extra dot here. They do lose Baden, but overall I think they go plus on this turn, right? Which is kind of insane. Alright. So, I don't know who this is. I think, so this unit here, right, is another, I think it was an original Australia player who dies on this turn in Baden. And so now Australia is really just Bregenz and Leonding, plus this unit in Ruse. There was a thing about how many people controlled Baden at various points of this game. If you look back through the videos, you will see it's changing hands a lot. Australia had their own meme around that, called Joe Baden, and anyone who entered Baden got announced as the new Joe Baden, and I think we got to like 12 at some point. So congratulations for them, but I wasn't following it closely enough, so it's just a side note that I'll mention for this specific phase. And of course this convoy into known is actually really painful for Clegg. That's another thing to point out. Alright, is there anything else you want to talk about here?
God, this phase, no, I don't. This fall phase, yeah, no, I think we don't. Yeah, I don't have anything else to
Okay.
talk about this phase.
We can go into the winter. There is something quite important that happens. I think it's after builds, so yeah, unless you want to talk about builds specifically. I c-
I don't need to talk about builds
okay.
specifically now.
So going. Oh, we got a micro map for this one. All right, fine. I'll do it before builds. But at this point, uh, pretty much so up to this point, Dawnburn, myself, and of course Crescent was sort of united as independent states. Like we were the remainders of Spiral, but we were united in an alliance with each other, but it didn't have a name, and we were just sort of known as people who weren't in any major alliance on all the maps, right? At this point, I go to GTFO and I say, hey, look, I supported Chicken into Burgess. I'm gonna help you out more. Can me and Dawnburn join GTFO as GTFN, right? We're like your outside members. And most of GTFO were pretty happy about this, actually, including Chicken, who was very pro. There was
Uh-huh.
one person in GTFO who was really not.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Which person might this be, Captain Meme?
Ezio was trying very hard to convince people that they should just kill us and take our
Just take
dots.
their thoughts.
Yeah.
There's no value that Captain Meme has. Like the player is just getting in the way. My
Uh,
way,
but
specifically
I
my
think
way.
also your opposition actually helped solidify it even more because it made Partridge a lot more aware of the situation and pro the situation, which of course Partridge has a lot of influence over this side of GTFO. So I end up managing to get officially into GTFN, and I am declared to be part of Odysseus's district. So that's you. Amusingly, you kind of brought this on yourself because Odysseus is obviously very pro myself and Dawnburn getting into GTFO because we were their allies from before. And they are now the councillor of this district over here. So they just widened this district to include myself and Dawnburn, and suddenly we're all in like this this district of GTFO. And I don't love being part of this alliance because I've kind of hated the idea of mega alliances from the start, but it keeps me alive, so I'm very happy about that. Right?
Yeah,
it's
and there's no reason for it to keep you alive. You're not in GTFO. You're a GTFN. Right? Anyone can eat you at any point, consequence free, as established. So yeah, I
yes.
don't know what the fuck's going on.
Yeah, I think at some point you just give up on talking about it, at least for the moment. You do definitely talk about it more when we start arranging moves in the next phase. Which,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get to when we get there. But now, myself and Ezio are in the same alliance, even though Ezio doesn't want us to be.
Yeah.
Alright, is there anything else you want to talk about here?
Yeah. Ugh. Okay. So I read the rules of this game wrong in this phase. Well, I read them in a way that I recognized they were open to interpretation for the winning.
Mhm.
Because the rules are written in such a way that I thought that if two people reached 15 centers at the same time, they could both win. And that would make everything so much easier for me, right? Because as you've talked about, GTFO is this two horse race. It's just me and Partridge, and everyone else is kind of irrelevant. And so I'm like, hey, what if Partridge and I just can like win together? Wouldn't that make life really easy? And so then I like ask the GM in my void, hey, this thing is a little bit ambiguous. Can you confirm to me that like if how this is ruled, like could two people win together? And then the GM that I asked in my void was like, yeah, sure. That makes sense. Which is like a pretty like, yeah, okay, sure, that works. I'm not gonna find the exact text, but the GM is like, it's not a hard absolutely yes, this is intended, but it was like, based on my reading, yeah, that looks good. And this was cool to me to learn and to be like, oh, hey, I can just, hey, Partridge, let's just win the game together. Let's just be clear about it. Clag is getting slowed down, but he's not going to get stopped forever. GTFO is going to be ecstatic about this because not only do we get one GTFO winner, we get two GTFO winners. You're going to be happy about it because you get to win. I'm going to be happy about it because I get to win. And we're both the two big players. Let's just end it. Let's just Operation throw GTFO. Let's go. Let's be out of here. And then it turns out that two winners is not a thing.
So you're missing a step in the story, right? Which is that the GMs did something that the GMs did a little bit during this game that I maybe wouldn't recommend doing if you're adjudicating your own game, which is when a rule came up that they didn't know the answer to, or like a rule question, they would just put out a poll for it. Right?
Yes, I forgot that. They're ruling, they had people vote on this.
Yeah, so they didn't know what the answer would be to this, so they just put up an announcement saying, hey, here's a poll, should we allow joint wins or should we not? And the vast majority of people said no, don't allow joint wins.
Yeah, because joint wins, to be clear, are terrible, and they shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
In general, I think the rules are such. It's just, when the rules are written, the rules are the rules. And in general, you're like, shouldn't change the rules of a thing midway through. And letting people in diplomacy vote on the win condition, right?
It's a terrible idea, because people are always going to vote based on their own interest, right?
Yeah.
It's like, this is why you have GMs. They're an independent person who doesn't get affected by their own interests in the game. But they put out a poll and it was banned, so you were no longer allowed to joint win with Partridge.
Yeah, and it's especially bad when, like, a GM has reached out to me and, like, said yes already. And then to be like, actually, no. When I've, like, started talking to people about this being a thing now. Because now I've already got I wasn't getting the ball rolling on the throwing conversations in GTFO up until now, because I knew that if GTFO starts talking about throwing, it's going to end up being a throw to Partridge and not to me, and that's going to lose me the game. But hey, I could maybe win with Partridge, and that's fine, and like, you guys know how I feel about these joint wins if you watched my Imp Dip Spain thing, where I don't, look, if I get a win, I get a win.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to take the guaranteed path to my win, and cutting other people out, it's mostly irrelevant. Fine. I got the ball rolling on this throw discussion now in GTFO, and I know that it's going to go to Partridge, and so I am in oh shit mode. Because it's all bad, right? Partridge is just, like, going to win this game now. And nobody else knows this, because everyone else in the map has been looking at GTFO, and they've been looking at me as the threat, not Partridge. They've been like, oh my god, Ezio's the person who's going to win this game. He's the biggest in GTFO. He's got all whatever. But they haven't been paying attention to the negotiations and the relationships and how everyone around Partridge is perfectly happy for Partridge to just take their stuff. So, what's a man to do, CaptainMeme, when the other person in your alliance, who's become a rival but not, like, explicitly attacking you yet, what are you supposed to do to not lose the game?
Well, you could try and be friendly to the people around you so they like you more than the other person.
Yeah, that ship has sailed a little bit. That cat's out the bag on that one. Remember, one of these people literally killed themselves because they were so pissed at me. And I don't think they were the neighbor that hated me the most.
Oh boy.
So,
well, your other option could be to go for a solo.
Oh, I mean, go for a solo, yeah. But there's another thing. Oh, actually, go for a solo. Yeah, it is going for a solo. I go to the other major alliance on the board, and I ask them if they want to let me win. Because obviously they don't care about winning themselves.
So we need to talk a little bit about fire. Just before we move on to this, I do want to say it may have sounded a bit like we were ragging on the GMs previously, and we may have agreed. We did disagree with some of their decisions in the game. I do want to make it clear they did an incredible job GMing the entire game by hand for what is a massive map and everything. So
Yeah, and
fantastic
handling all of this
work.
stuff, right? And this was, I think, a couple of his first time GMing. I think.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
And so, like, for first time GMs, this is huge, and like they'll learn some of these things, so, like the rules consistency, whatever. But it was a huge amount of effort, and this game was a blast. So
yeah,
for whatever issues we had, right, the upside is huge.
There are always going to be issues that you have, like small issues that you have with GMs in a game this large, because something is going to come up somewhere, right? So we mentioned that, and we haven't mentioned the fact that they did an incredible job for the rest of it. So I'm just going to go ahead and say that now. And then we can move on to talking about fire, which I do not think we're doing an incredible job for the rest of it, but that's my own personal opinion.
Yeah. So at this point in the game, right, if we look at Fire as an alliance, just like on an alliance map level, Fire is doing pretty well.
They're doing incredibly well. They're all the way out here.
Yeah.
They're all the way out here.
Incredibly well. I mean, all the way out here, right? You're right. That's like two C provinces, right? It's not that far from where they are. But
I'll try and dig up one of Partridge's alliance maps and put it in the video here.
Yeah, that's great. Like, so they're doing well as an alliance. The problem is their biggest player is on, I think, 3 dots.
Yes.
If that. They might even only be on 2. No, I think there's someone on 3.
Rome has 3, right?
Yeah, like Rome has 3, and then like Padua has 3 or whatever. And like they're all super split up. Like, they're not gonna win this game. Nobody in Fire is gonna win this game. And Fire has been perfectly happy to accept new members into their alliance kind of all the time. Right, their modus operandi has been, for France they did it, in Austria they did it. They did all these things where they just like induct people into their alliance and then have whatever. So I have an idea. What if I joined Fire? Because if I join Fire, most of these people don't care about winning. But if I join the alliance and then I win, then a member of Fire would win. That interesting, right? Look at that. And that's basically all it is. It's, hey, call me a member of Fire, work with me to help me win, and notably stop Partridge from winning, and then our objectives are met. My objective of win the game is met, and your objective of member of Fire win game is met. Because they've inducted these people who are now like full-on members of Fire, and there's like no distinction between them and whatever. And like, I don't get why Fire did this instead of just eating them. But hey, Fire had a thing where like if they don't win the game, they want like the game to end in a draw, where like every person on the map is a member of Fire, and then they vote to like just peace, and it's just like makes me want to vomit.
So Fire have a thing of equality, right? All of their members have to have the same number of SCs, and they want to drag anyone down who has more SCs than they do and make sure they control as much of the map as possible as an alliance, right? Which I think is where you made a misjudgment in making that proposal, because by joining Fire, all the Fire people will then want you to go down to their supply center count. And
well, I was talking about that. I would obviously be exempt from that whole thing because I in my vote for Fire, I explicitly said, "Hey guys, I will join Fire if and only if you guys help me win the game."
Mm-hmm.
And remember how I've been like shitting on Fire a lot in the commentary in this game, post game. I was doing some of that in game too,
just a little.
I had a couple of people in Fire that I was actually pretty friendly with. I was friendly with Milan. I was friendly with Padua. And, like, I had a workable thing with... not Padua. Sorry, no, not Padua.
Not
Parma.
Parma, okay.
No, Padua was not someone that I was... No, they were the opposite of friends. Yeah, so... I get remarkably close to making this happen, actually,
where I talked to a bunch of members of Fire, because Barcelona is a member of Fire. Like a bunch of the French members of Fire who have joined later are super on board with this, and Milan is on board with this, and they have just a direct democracy. And I even time it right, where most of the like most active people in Fire who like hate my guts were offline. These are Naples and Padua primarily. Turin also hates my guts. Yeah. So the three of them like weren't around for a bit, and I got the ball rolling on this pretty fast. And everyone that was in Fire in France said they were happy to support this, and then the vote comes up, and I like an actual vote happens. But in the classic Fire way of doing things, Padua is the person who like puts forth the official votes, and like Padua I make deals with a bunch of people where like I talk to each of these people on Fire and it's like, look, what do you actually want this game to look like at the end? What things are you looking for? And all of these things are achievable with me winning the game. And it's like, hey, a part of this deal is I will make this thing happen and this thing happen, including like I will make sure that the game won't end until Fire has more than 50% of all the dots on the board. I'll agree that like specific people get specific growth, and like I'll cosplay as senator for the rest, and like I'll whatever, like all sorts of like dumb bullshit that whatever I'll agree to. I'll say whatever. Um, and I have this long checklist with all these people to agree to do stuff, and then like I tell all of this stuff to Padua, and it's like, hey, like make clear, like I am offering to do anything that anyone asks in Fire to make happen. Like this is not whatever. And then Padua puts a vote up that's like one of the I should find the text of it where it's just incredibly negative, right? It's just the most clearly like I don't want this to happen. This is stupid and dumb, and like will give Ezio all of these things when it's unclear what Fire actually would be giving me out of this whole thing. By the way, just like a clear statement, be like, hey, let's help. We're gonna help Ezio win, and like maybe stop Partridge and put pressure on like the eastern part of GTFO in general. But like we didn't actually work on any specifics what Fire was actually going to do to help. Pato puts this vote up. This vote gets nowhere, and so I spend, let's say, 10 hours of my time just down the drain, wasted, making myself look like an idiot.
How did GTFO feel about you trying to join Fire?
Well, a couple of them weren't too happy about it, but the way that I phrased it to GTFO is like, hey, if I'm like not gonna attack you guys in GTFO, and if I can like get Fire to give us anything, this is great for us. And everyone in GTFO kind of already hates me. So once you're at the bottom, there's no it can't get any worse, right? It's like what's gonna change, right? Everyone in GTFO who's my neighbor trusts me and respects me and appreciates that I'm gonna push for things to happen, and the other people assume I'm the self-interested son of a bitch who's not gonna do anything for anyone at any point, and I'm gonna like and hates my gut. So it's like it doesn't matter, right? It didn't change their opinion of me at all.
Mm-hmm. So basically, this had no effect.
This whole thing had no effect on the game whatsoever. But I'm glad that everyone listened to this for about 20 minutes.
Fantastic.
That one phase is just such a perfect like one phase distillation of the entire game. A whole bunch of noise, a whole bunch of nonsense happens, a whole bunch of shit gets spewed, and then nothing comes of it. And so this led to the motto, in my opinion, of this game: nothing ever happens. Because this entire game was full of people making tons of noise about stuff that did not come to fruition.
Mm-hmm.
Every phase for the entire game.
Yeah, there was a whole thing that we skipped over earlier about hyper war, which I think was...
There was so much that we skipped over this game.
Yeah. So Spiral, at one point, I think, Spiral and Fire and GTFO all had decent relations, and everyone was constantly talking about how a hyper war would occur if any of them declared war on any of the others. And people were hyped about this hyper war and things actually happening. And then at one point, I think Clag makes a video saying that he's gonna declare hyper war, and everyone gets hyped for a phase about how the hyper war is starting and we need to get ready for the hyper war. And then nothing happens. Like, all of the alliances stick together and keep going. So we didn't mention it. Right?
Yeah, Clag didn't even declare hyper war in that video. He hyped up how he was going to declare hyperwar, and then he declared peace in that video. It was so good.
So yeah, there was a lot of nothing happening.
There was a whole lot of stuff and then nothing. And so in this video, right, we're trying to keep it to what's kind of relevant, but I didn't want to talk about that bullshit with fire because it made me look like a complete fool. Like, it was great. Like, putting up a vote, hey, you guys want to let me into your alliance and let me win? And then the vote gets, like, 1 yes vote and, like, 20 no votes. Yeah. That's a good look.
Alright. Well, yeah, and at the same time as you're trying to join fire, you're trying to keep me out of GTFO. This is hilarious.
Yeah.
Alright, so shall we move ahead to the moves?
Oh, God. Yeah.
Yeah, alright, so this is the last year we'll cover in this video. I get supported into Kragujevac, and at this point, I was basically going on tiptoe in the negotiations, going like, hey chicken, I can help you in if you want to, but I would love a second dot if I could get one. And when I first joined GTFO, that wasn't even on my mind. I was just going, hey chicken, you can have Crag, I'm gonna give you whatever you want, just let me into GTFO, right? But once I get into the district, that's Varna's district, I feel like I have more room to negotiate, because Varna is a good friend, Dawnburn is a good friend, and we're now in, like, our own alliance over here, which doesn't concern, like, these are people who actively like me, so this is my opportunity to get myself a dot. So I do it in a really nice way. I'm like, yeah, I can still get you a dot, but if there's a possibility, I would love to get a dot out of this, and Chicken is quite a nice person, it turns out, when they're not trying to get into Crescent's dots, and so they offer me the support, and I'm offered to go up to 2, and I'm like, oh my god, wait, am I actually gonna get up to 2 here? That's incredible. And then there's one voice coming in from GTFO going, guys, why are you letting Meme get to 2? He's like, he really shouldn't even be in GTFO at all, but if you are gonna let him in GTFO, don't let him go up.
We added him last phase, guys. Like, there are people who have been in GTFO for years who have been frothing at the mouth for dots.
This is exactly the argument you made, right?
He's a GTFN. Like, we should let Chicken get an extra dot, right? Chicken can take it. Like, we could do some swaps. What on earth are we doing?
The thing is,
how?
Like, I get the argument. I feel like I've made the same argument in these commentaries about why you shouldn't have added Omsk and Rostov, for example, because they end up taking a bunch of the dots. But given that it's me, I'm very pro my own argument and my own being given dots.
Yeah, obviously you're pro yourself getting dots. Shocker.
But hilariously, I think your opposition to it actually locks in that I'm getting the dot even more. Because at this point, you've... Like, people are okay with you.
I'm pretty confident that Chicken was going to give you the dot.
Mm-hmm. That's probably the case.
Right. I don't think my voice in the opposition changed it.
Certainly there's people in GTFO who, once you make your opinion clear, they become quite anti that opinion. There's people like Adana.
True. Adana, Istanbul, Peacock, Rostov, who's in not Kayseri, but Samson, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Samson. Yep.
Yes. So I'm happy to hear it. It's like I'm really annoyed by Ezio constantly trying to make sure that I don't gain anything, right? But at the same time, I think it helps me a little.
One of the things that you've been cutting out of these reviews, CaptainMeme, is the fact that you've also been chirping about me doing well.
I have spent the entire game going, Ezio, how can you let Ezio get to this amount? Ezio is in charge of GTFO, they're just letting Ezio run everything, blah, 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 blah. Like, I was shouting that from the rooftops for a very long time. As I mentioned in the last phase, once it became obvious that I would need to work with GTFO to survive, I shut up about that for the most part.
Yeah, because when CaptainMeme says he was yelling about GTFO, he was specifically yelling about me in GTFO. To be clear, that was most people's issue with GTFO at every point in the game. was, oh my god, Ezio's doing well. How could you let Ezio do well? Shakes fist angrily at Alliance. And then half of the Alliance is staring there like, what the fuck are you guys on about? We've been making far more noise about Ezio than you. We're his biggest rivals. And so, like, what do you want us to do? Type stuff. So it's like everyone else was doing this, and here it's just like it's the most insane thing. Why are we giving Meme a time? Surely we can take it ourselves instead of letting this like dumbass trooper who's been saved by divine providence like twice. He should be dead. How is he in the game still? Let alone growing. This is absurd.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I hear your arguments, and I say I don't care. I want my second
armor.
And everyone around me agrees that I should get the second dot, apart from Sankt Polton, who doesn't matter at this point. So I'm pretty okay with that. I'm half expecting someone to walk into Timisoara anyway, because that's what's happened every time I've been potentially getting to a second dot. I've been stabbed, right?
Well, this fall was my last gasp, right?
Yeah. But here I'm just like, oh, please, I really hope I get it, but I am half expecting to not get it.
Have someone take Timmy, yeah, right? Because we can totally take Timmy. All right. So the other stuff that's happening in this phase, like lots of good convoys are happening, which is quite nice.
Mm-hmm.
So that army in essence that I convoyed there from Marash is nicely getting up. It's going to
Varna.
It's going into Varna because we're doing tactics for this fight with SP St. Paul, and so we're going to get it into Ness, and that's going to be good. So that's all nice and fun. We got a convoy into Finn, and then Finn moved to full, and full moved to cold. And at this point, once we let Dorn and Meme into GTFO, Crossroads and Marash aren't going to get dots anymore from this area. Right? They're like not going to take anything. And I desperately want them to just stab. Just like, hey, we're just going to take the dots that we can, right? Steyr, and like do the thing. And like if Marash got the stab to work, Marash could double, which would be kind of sweet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But that doesn't happen. So at this point, I've been handling a lot of the tactics around this Austria region. And here, now that I get the army out of essence, I decide I'm not going to worry about this anymore. Crossroads, you can handle it. Gold star, thumbs up. As I've done with the rest of the stuff, when I stop wanting to deal with it, Crossroads is more than happy to handle it. Mm. Best sub ever. We love Crossroads.
Yep. And they are somehow still alive despite having non-allied units adjacent to the empty center.
She's the best, and everyone wants to keep her alive, and we've made good friends with Parma, right? Who's a bro.
Yeah. All right. So, is there anything you want to talk about your moves here, or not?
I'm just doing a bunch of repositioning. I'm like looking at potential stabs. Like I said, every turn, I'm looking at potential stabs in the fall, and I'm thinking about how to set stuff up. And it's like, well, if I go like this, then we can do some stuff. And it's like now I'm in Gaz and Feather Basin, and so like I can support myself into Peacock and like cover fire back, and like that looks pretty juicy. There's a bunch of noise because despite a Crossroads being most of the internal negotiator, Peacock I still start shit with, and we talk about getting Peacock, not Partridge.
Not Partridge.
This is a mistake I've made at many points throughout the game where I have called Partridge Peacock, and this pissed her off immensely. I am sorry about that, Partridge. Where we talk about getting Peacock convoyed. And as I was trying to get Peacock kicked out of the Alliance for not going to Fireback last year, Izmir stepped in, because Izmir was the counselor, or Marison? No, sorry, Marison stepped in.
Yeah.
That, God. Yes, Marison, not Izmir, stepped in, and then agreed to get, I think, Peacock convoyed out somewhere. I'm pretty sure Peacock's getting a convoy to bridge. I think that's agreed.
Gotcha. I do want to just pick up on that point on your about not knowing the name of these people, right? Because you're in an alliance right next to them. It is quite funny that you forget who these are. But then I got my side of this when, like, I was in this Austria and just concerned with the people around this Austria for most of the game, so I was like, okay, I know who everyone around me is. There's like 12 people I need to know the names of, and then I'm good. But at this point, when GTFO starts flooding armies into the continent, and I'm part of GTFO, right? This is my own alliance that is getting a ton of armies moving in here. I have no idea who any of these people are. Because this, for example, is Crossroads, right? Coming from here?
Oh, that's fair.
Oh, that's Mirage even, right?
Yeah, Mirage, yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then this one is Crossroads. And then
Yep.
this one, I have no idea who they are.
That's Izmir.
There's another one coming in here of Pink Person. Who is Pink Person? I guess that's Diyarbakir or Erzurum.
I think that's as... Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that's Erzurum. Yeah, that one. I'm
Yeah,
pretty
so
sure.
basically this place is getting flooded with allied units who I don't know who they are, so I don't even know who to at when talking about them. Most of the time I'm just going to my counselor, who is Varna, going, hey, who is this? Like, they're in our alliance, right? And Varna will either tell me who they are if they know, or they'll go and talk to someone else to find out who that person is. I'm just left like, how the hell do you do this in a Mega Alliance? It actually made me a little impressed that Fire is managing to coordinate this, because this is 4 units and I'm completely lost already. I have no idea who any of these people are.
I was organizing all this stuff.
Yeah, I guess it's you also.
Yeah, this was just me until I pass it over to Crossroads now, because I'm off it. I got the armies convoyed out. That's all I cared about. If they actually get dots, I'd in fact prefer it if they didn't.
But yeah, it's so easy
great
to lose track of who's who, and especially in a Mega Alliance where it's all being coordinated by like 1 or 2 main tacticians, and the other people might not be talking as much. It's very easy to lose track of whose unit is actually who's around you. And it also means that you sort of lose the sense of individual negotiation, right? This suddenly just becomes a tactical exercise, because I'm not talking to any of these individual people most of the time, right? I'm just going and talking to GTFO, and then GTFO is giving these people orders. And it changes the game so much from my perspective, because prior to this it has all been individual negotiations with people.
Yeah, for you. Jeez.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is a change for you at this stage in the game.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say, like, in these Mega Alliances, if you just know who the people are and you still talk to the individuals, that's where you make progress.
Mm-hmm.
Like, when you try to negotiate with Fire in general, you're going to end up talking to, like, Naples, right, or Bari, or Padua, who are just, like, going to tell you to fuck right off and, like, be incredibly abrasive and annoying about it. But if you, like, recognize, oh, actually, Milan in Fire is a good person to talk to, or, like, look at these people who will actually benefit from the deal that you're going to propose, talk to them about the specific deal that you're going to propose, and let them be the ones to take it to the rest of their alliance so they can start having these fights. Mm-hmm. That's how you actually make progress with these deals. And internally in GTFO, right, I was figuring out what Syria wanted, right, what Constantinople wanted, what Varna wanted, what Marash wants, and then because I can give them what they want and just make sure that that benefits me, and in this case merge what they want with, like, getting their armies away from me, it's individual negotiation. And at this point in the game they became kind of my vassals, and so it's whatever, like, it's less impressive. But getting to a point where they were my vassals was impressive. Mm-hmm. Getting to a point where early on is these individual people want this individual thing, figure out what they want, let them go to the alliance, is a better way to do it. That's how you make progress.
For sure. Agree completely. Is there anything more we want to talk about here? I guess I should mention it looks like Plovdiv is 100% working with Klagenfurt now. They take this unit out of Plovdiv. Plovdiv is the brown power, just so people know. And it looks like Klag is actually keeping up their side of the deal there as well. And this is a support hold, so yeah. Yeah, and
Yeah,
Clag.
we kind of didn't talk too much about Clag, right? Because
Yeah.
Clag kind of got stopped. Like the
Yeah, they
position.
managed to get Linz, they lose Tron, but they're not really making progress anymore at this point, right?
Yeah, the position was less of a solo threat than it initially looked like. Um,
Yes.
and it was just the perfect excuse for Fire and GTFO to just start convoying armies there, right? Like since Clag's solo attempt, there have been like 2 or 3 armies convoyed into Austria every turn.
Hmm.
And so we started joking about it being a black hole as the density increased to 100.
Yes. I did just notice there's a convoy swap that happens here, which is a neat little maneuver. They want to make sure that the army gets inland to help with the army place and have
Sure.
the fleet on the coast. The way you do that is by sending one of the units via convoy so that they can swap places. That might be it for this phase.
Oh, blah, 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 blah.
Shall we move
Is that
ahead?
it? I think that's it for this phase.
Okay.
Whatever. It's
Yeah,
fine.
there are of course a lot more things going on, but it doesn't matter as directly to us. This is it's a weird phase for me in that this is actually probably the phase where I do the least negotiation of all of the previous phases. Just because I'm now safely in this Mega Alliance, I don't want to upset the apple cart and stop myself getting the second dot by annoying anyone. Right, so I'm just gonna let people coordinate, maybe make a noise if anyone mentions anything about anyone else getting Timisoara, which I don't think anyone does at this point. I think you've checked out about it. Like, you're kind of done.
Obviously, they should just support themselves into Timmy and support themselves into Crag. Right? Chicken takes Crag, someone takes Timmy,
Mhm.
everything's done. We can even convoy an army into Timmy. Wouldn't that be great?
Yeah, but
Obviously, that's not going to happen.
yeah, you're aware at this point that people are not going to do that to me, so you stop making noise about it. You were kind of the only person really making noise about it, so at this point, I just sort of nod when people give me the orders and let that happen. So there's not much going on my side of things right now.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah. Meanwhile, anything you want to
I'm
talk
just
about?
so happy that you have nothing to do this phase. And you can just sit back and not say anything, and then like just people will give you a second dot after not killing you. Wow.
uh, well, I mean, we still have to see whether it works or not. But yes,
Sorry.
shall we go
Yeah,
ahead
we
to
do have to
moves?
see. Yeah, let's see how it works.
Okay, so it does. I get a second dot. It's miraculous. I believe this was arranged so Crossroads did actually get the extra dot here, and Dawnburn gets a replacement second dot from Feld. But yeah, the important thing to me is I get another supply center. I am surrounded by units, but they're all theoretically allied to me, so I'm really happy with this. Like, it is absolutely incredible. And I can hear Ezio seething about how this still.
Whatever. You look. Congratulations, Captain Meme. I'm so proud of you.
Alright, do you want to talk about what's going on in GTFO here?
Lots of center trading, and lots of very scary center trading, because Partridge is getting stuff, and it's not all good. We don't love to see this. Okay. Um, yeah. Oh, there is good news. There is good news for the good guys. I got Peacock convoyed out to Bridge, so that's cool. And Marash agreed to let me take one of their dots if I got them a dot from Austria, which I did.
Yep.
I forgot about that part. Yeah, that was huge. That was so nice.
Yeah. It's impressive.
Yeah, so I did that, and then Adana got their army convoyed out of Fork somewhere else over in Austria. So that's great news. What's not great news is that Partridge took a center off of Adana.
Yep.
We don't love to see that. But it does mean that Adana is going to disband something.
I think this was with Adana's agreement, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Everything was with Adana's agreement. Oh no, it wasn't. Theoretically, it wasn't going to be Partridge getting it, right? It was supposed to be a trade for Istanbul for Esk, but then Adana chose to give Partridge the extra unit by moving their fleet out of Esk.
Yes.
Right, as yet another yes. I'm just gonna give you dots, Partridge. Enjoy. I don't actually think this is bad news for me, because Adana going down means Adana's gonna disband this fleet, and like that fleet in Esk is one of the most annoying units for me. If I'm like going to fight GTFO, that fleet is huge. So forcing that fleet to get disbanded is not actually great. And like, yeah, you give Partridge some units, but like, eh. So yeah.
And Partridge gets the extra dot from Grouse, but gets Anatolia taken. I assume this is all arranged.
Yeah, that's all arranged and it's fine.
So they only go +1 total, unless they were getting.
Yes, they go +1. Yeah, whereas I'm sitting here like getting Mirage convoyed all the way out and like negotiating with like half the people on this board, tracking these, getting the army convoyed right from Mirage up there involved like 5 different people between us and Fire as this multinational thing, and yada yada yada. Get a dot. Partridge has a dot. It's be like, here you go, have a dot. I'm not going to take it from you. Yeah, turns out diplomacy is in fact a game of diplomacy, and there are lots of ways to do it.
Yes. So yeah. For you personally, getting the extra dot, fantastic. Obviously, getting Peacock out, fantastic. And that's kind of it, right? There's not much else going on here. I mean, there's a lot of stuff.
Yeah, basically it's just that we're like, the stab is looking better and better. It's feeling like that time might start happening, right? Like I got this dot from Mirage, and so hey, I can build an extra unit, so it's going to be an even bigger stab. I'm now up to 6. Pretty sweet. The dream is to somehow like just finagle my way up to 8. Notably, if I can take Mirage and Crossroads, that would put me at 8. And if I can take these dots without officially stabbing, maybe I can like literally just stab and win in the same phase. I'm thinking that's going to probably be unlikely. I'm probably going to have to go for a stab to get to like 12 or 13 and then like grind out the last couple dots. Depending on the position, I can have a pretty solid position. And again, if I can make a stab where I get into Waterfowl and like I have complete control over Waterfowl, it's going to go pretty well afterwards. And like now it's time to start thinking about like what do the 15 dots actually look like, right? So I have these 6 dots. And so Mirage is going to be another dot, right? That one's going to be 7 for free. Where do the next 8s come from? Like where can 15 dots happen? 8 dots sounds like a lot, but it's not that many considering how dense this region is. For example, if I just get the turkey that's like in Adana's region, right? Like all of Adana and then plus chicken, and then if I get the turkey that's all of Izmir's plus peacock, that's game. That's 8 centers right there. That's not including anything on the rim. Because Syria and Crossroads, I've talked about how hard it is to get stuff through them. It's difficult for me to hold as well. And so if I take Syria and I count on that being one of my dots that I need to win the game, then I need to commit a bunch of units to defending it and to hold it. And like that's where a lot of pressure is going to come in on. And I'm not sure that that's worth it. Like, yeah, it'd be kind of nice, and it's in my district, so I know a lot of people are assuming it's going to be one that I go for, but I'm not planning on having Syria or Crossroads be part of my win. I want everything to be completely internal. If things work out and I can get it, then I will get it, but I'm not planning on that happening.
Yeah.
So, and like, these were just the 2 turkeys, right? The Izmir one were just ones I was talking about, and that has relatively few Bulgaria equivalents even in there. But if I get into Waterfowl, then I have control over these Bulgaria equivalents, and like maybe I can get into Pheasant, and then I can get into whatever the one is below to the east of Peacock.
Quail.
Quail. Yeah.
Notably, if you manage to take just this lot, then you win, right? With that's
yeah,
a
yeah,
bit tough, but
yeah,
it
the
goes to show
Bulgarians
how
are really
dense everything is.
yeah, right. There's so many dots in the area, and so there's tons of flexibility around. And like, if I just get momentum on a push, it could be over.
Hmm.
Um, and you'll notice like there's like kind of one fleet per Black Sea area at this point in the game, and they're going to be annoying when if I start pushing. But like Handle Basin doesn't mess with chicken, right? It just messes with these Istanbuls. So I was looking at the tactics, like getting and if you control an Ankara equivalent, you're gonna have a great time conquering that Turkey. So Esk, right, is hugely important for conquering that area. If I can get an army there, right, Istanbul and Adana are gonna fall. Getting fleets into the Constantinoples are huge because they give you the passage into other Black Seas. And obviously the Black Seas are like the most important for the whole thing. Like
Yep.
these Black Sea regions are monstrous. So I'm hoping and trying to finagle a way that I can get like an excuse to put my fleet into the Black Sea that's south of Quail. Because if I can get one into Flightless Basin, then poof, we're golden. And I have had a solid relationship with Merson, so I think there might be a chance. But sadly, they just have enough fleets. They kind of don't need me to do it, and I don't have a good excuse for getting there. So I mostly give up on that. But like this is what I'm thinking about at this point. Like how am I gonna win? And I want to make sure that Partridge can't win herself because she's getting another build. She's already got her units in the area, and I think does she only have two right now? I thought she had a third. Yeah, Handle Basin has a fleet there,
Yeah.
and so I'm like, yeah, because my stab is huge, right? That's definitely great, but hers is great too. The thing that gives me hope that makes me feel a little bit comfortable is that she has Esk and Istanbul now, and she can't really defend them because she's only got one army, but I have the fleet control over Storm Basin, and she's got an army in Istanbul, so she can't really contest this. And so once Adana disbands his fleet that he's gonna put in Fork because he gave extra units to Partridge, I make it like Partridge knows if she puts down a fleet in Esk, like things are already tense, right? And that would escalate tensions just tenfold. It would just incite probably instant war in the spring if I saw her build a fleet there. Like probably. So she doesn't want to do that. She's still hoping that she can like keep things solid and stable and she's just gonna get a great position and win, I think. So that's what she's up to. But like because she has these dots, right, I can take those dots from her. And me specifically taking dots from Partridge is most important if we're trying to stop Partridge from soloing. So this phase feels great. I'm like really, really excited because I'm probably going to stab pretty soon.
Well, yeah.
That's what's going on in my head.
Is there anything else you want to talk about move-wise here, or shall we move to the winter?
I think we can move to the winter.
Okay. This will be where we end this specific phase. I'll go ahead and see the builds here because you get to see my second dot here. And at this point, I make a checklist in my void, which I will say you can go and read all the voids for this game by joining the Discord link in the description. My void is not worth reading because I post almost nothing through the entire game there. I'm giving my thoughts in the retrospective instead, right? But here I do post in my void and I say I have a 3-point plan that I am going to try and achieve for the rest of this game. First, get a second dot. Achieved! It's always good to have something that's already achieved in your 3-point plan, because it makes your plan look much more feasible. Second point, I want to retake Feldkirch. Because at some point in a diplomacy game, you gotta make your own objectives, right? I'm not gonna win this. There's no way I get enough dots to get to 15 before 1915, which is the potential end if no one solos. So I want to take Feldkirch back. That's my second point of my 3-point plan. And then, of course, my third point of my 3-point plan, I'm going to make that a stretch goal. I'm going to make that something that's going to be a little bit harder to achieve. I'm going to say, take Squaris. Because I am the Emperor. The Emperor's throne is in Squaris, of course. And therefore, that rightfully belongs to me. It will involve taking it off Fire, who currently own it. And Fire is, of course, a gigantic mega alliance that it will be basically impossible to push through. but I may as well add something there that will create some excitement if I actually manage to achieve it. So that is my 3-point plan going forward. That is what I am going to aim for. Ezio, you have a 1-point plan, which is try and win, right?
Yes? Is that a plan?
Well, okay, your plan has a lot more stages than that, but in terms of what you're trying to achieve this game, you are actually going to
Yeah, I have one objective, and that's win the game at any means necessary.
and
By
so,
any means necessary, sorry.
yeah, and so those are the things that we are respectively going to go for going forward here. And is what we're going to see us try for in the next few episodes. Is there anything more you want to say, or shall we wrap it up there?
I think we're good.
Alright, well, thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.